Hop on in, sailors. The water's warm.
He's reportedly
I
looking
can
to
I
expand
can rip
both
it off
his
the stream,
packaged
but
goods and
like
media
dumb.
brands. That said, it's
I'm dumb
currently
as hell
unclear
today.
who or what firms are considering investing, and
How
talks are
far are
reportedly
we
still
in?
in the early
Or
stages. And while this is reportedly not the first time that he's raised money, with him getting funds from the firm Alpha Wave Global in the past, it does come as Mr. Beast has been making more business moves lately. With one of the most recent notable ones being his Beast Games Amazon show, reportedly getting 50 million viewers in 25 days, which is a record for unscripted programming on the service. With Bloomberg even saying that Amazon's
30
already prepared
minutes.
to spend big bucks on 2 more seasons of it. So, well, obviously, we're gonna have to wait to see what comes from this funding and what Mr. Beast does next. It is wild. It is just fucking.
Mr. Beast hasn't done like he's flirting with like he's gonna do some sort of human rights violation. Like it will happen. Like again, being a billionaire is a sickness. Like you get up there and you just start doing things and treating people like people don't become people anymore. They become product. Like he's literally he's literally selling the dreams of people, the hopes and dreams of people as a product, and like completely missing the point of Squid Games. Which, by the by, I really enjoyed season two. I think they did perfect on that, and the fact that season three is essentially part two of season two. I think they're doing great. I was not optimistic about a season two of Squid Games, but yeah, the creators are doing great. It's Parasite, the Korean film. It's Parasite levels of social commentary, and like it's amazing because it's like heavy handed on one hand and then light as a feather on the other. It's very I love the peanut butter chocolate nature of that kind of messaging. Let's keep going.
Why I know that everyone sees Mr. Beast as this huge entity now. You know, it's just wild to think about the news today that there's this $5 billion valuation being thrown around, and 7 years ago he was putting out "I'm saying Logan Paul's name over and over" videos. The power of the internet is just wild. But then, next up in the news, we need to talk about the flu, though specifically next season. Right, in that, because something that's been getting some attention is that yesterday afternoon, the FDA reportedly canceled a scheduled meeting of an advisory committee
They're gonna
that
kill
selects
so
which
many
flu
fucking
strains to prepare
Americans.
for. A meeting that notably experts say is absolutely crucial, right? Because every year the agency predicts which flu strains will be circulating next winter, and the drug companies make vaccines for those particular strains. And so with that, there is a fear that without guidance from the federal government, next season's flu shots could be ineffective, causing a resurgence of deadly influenza. And with that said, reportedly there was no reason given for the decision to cancel the meeting, which was set for March 13th. And to be clear, right, if this meeting doesn't happen, it appears they can't just reschedule it last minute. Over the seeing Richard Hughes, a lawyer for some vaccine makers, explaining to the New York Times, the vaccine manufacturing schedule is quite strict, with the FDA meeting usually taking place in February or March, and then production typically starting in June, lining up to distribution for September. And so with all this, you now have one committee member telling CBS News, we're all left trying to understand what is going on. Why was this meeting canceled? It's an important
They're gonna
meeting.
kill
What's the
so
plan
many
for flu
children.
vaccines this year? And then
Like
adding with the Times, it's a 6-month production cycle. So one can only assume that we're not picking flu strains this year. Now, notably, with this, in response to the panic, an HHS spokesperson told CBS News, the FDA will make public its recommendations to manufacturers in time for updated vaccines to be available for the 2025-2026
don't believe anything
influenza
this
season.
administration
Right now, it's
says.
unclear on what
Don't.
basis the agency is going to make the
Nope.
recommendation without consulting the panel or the World Health
They're
Organization.
just
Right,
gonna
that,
kill
because on
kids.
top of
Fuck.
ordering the U.S. to begin withdrawing from the World Health Organization, Trump banned federal health officials from communicating with it altogether, which you know is a huge thing because every year a WHO advisory committee holds its own week-long meeting to pick the flu strains for the Northern Hemisphere, and this one's already happening this week, or with those recommendations typically influencing the FDA committee's decision. And that breakdown of cooperation, it hurts both sides, since Trump reportedly made the CDC stop contributing influenza data to 2 WHO-managed databases, FluNet and FluID, back in January. However, a key update is that Stat News reported on Monday that officials from both the FDA
If Biden or Obama did this, impeachment, just straight up impeachment. They would just impeach him. They would hang him for treason. Like I don't like Trump belongs in prison. He's broken the law. He's violated America. Like I and the Republicans just aren't doing it. And the Dems don't seem to want to do it. Like Jamie Raskin seems like he wants to file impeachment against Trump. He's like, "Yeah, I'm up for it, but like I'm not Marjorie Taylor Greene where I'm like, we need to impeach Biden over the Hunter laptop." And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what the fuck? Like, how many homes are vacant in your district and how many homeless people do you have? Like, what are you doing here? Like, get your head out of your fucking ass and stop doing CrossFit. You're gonna rip um, your shoulders out of their sockets. God. Let's keep going.
FDA and the CDC were attending the WHO meeting virtually. So this, as it's unclear what's going on there, whether they got a waiver or not, but either way, it could be a good sign for public health. Though I will say, like, everything feels uncertain right now. I mean, we're seeing things like the CDC confirming last week that it postponed a meeting of its own vaccine advisory committee that was supposed to happen this week, right? And that committee meets several times a year to review the scientific data on new and updated vaccines so that the agency can decide whether to advise use of them, which then notably sets insurance and government coverage in motion. And this specific meeting was set to consider several important shots, right? Several vaccines and a new at-home influenza nasal spray. But I will say there being a lot of focus on the HPV vaccine because a special note there is that RFK Jr., the new health secretary, has criticized it and worked on a lawsuit against its maker, Merck. Now with this, the HHS did at least provide a reason for postponing this meeting, with a spokesperson saying there needed to be more time for public comment. But really, for many, that felt like a trivial pretext to delay the rollout of life-saving medicine. Right? I mean, just talking about the flu, for example, the CDC reports that it killed 86 children and 19,000 adults so far this season, with also about 430,000 people being hospitalized and at least 33 million people getting infected, which is why you have experts warning that without effective vaccines, we can expect to see those numbers rise next winter. And so over the course of the year, it's going to be very interesting to see, was this kind of just a blip? Do they get things back on schedule?
Not a blip, Phil. It's a Nazi coup takeover. They're going to kill children.
Several of the years to come. Something we're going to put into the fuck around and find out column. But then next up, let's talk about 3 big pieces of Trump administration news that you need to know today. Starting with the news that the administration has officially said that it's cutting more than 90% of USAID's foreign aid contracts worth $60 billion.
Also illegal. No, real quick. I don't think... So not only do I think the Republican Party isn't pro-child, Jeb, I don't know if you've played Half-Life 2 or if anyone watching this or listening has played Half-Life 2. There's an underlying theme in the game that isn't really talked about, but how there's no children in the game. Essentially, the Earth is getting mined for its resources. It's had its ocean sucked up. And the remaining I don't know, they don't explain what happened to the children. They're just gone and no one can have any more. And the remaining adults are just slave laborers for the Combine. And it's once the Combine steals all the resources, it's heavily implied they're just going to kill the remaining humans. And I think that's what the Republicans want to do. They want to get the maximum amount out of humanity. They want to enslave the remaining adults. You can't afford to have children. They've convinced people not to take vaccines so that their children die. Again, RFK Jr. Influenced American Samoa into an anti-vaccine campaign and got dozens of children killed up there. He's going to do that on a national scale. And also as well to note is what happened with Puerto Rico with venture capitalist firms offloading debt and leveraging Puerto Rico's resources and essentially leaving them with billions of dollars in debt that they'll never pay off without help from the mainland, which we're not inclined to do because we're too busy trying to conquer Canada. But yeah, that's the Republican dream, is stop you from having children, even though they're saying you should have more children. They'll work you to death. You die. They get all the resources. AI does whatever they want them to do. When society crumbles, Zuckerberg's got his island. He's just going to chill out on his island with his security force, his wife, the people he's forming his new dynasty with. And we'll just be left here on the mainland holding our dicks and dying. Really an optimistic future. Truly the best. Fuck. Let's keep going. Let's hear more about more illegal shit.
With that, marking the first time we have a number showing the full scale of Trump and Musk's efforts to end the majority of U.S. aid and development abroad. And this news was made public in court filings yesterday in a case where a judge ordered the administration
which
to
PR?
release $2 billion in back payments, with foreign aid contractors there claiming in a lawsuit that money that they're owed for services already rendered has been blocked under Trump's funding freeze, even after a judge ordered him to release it. But then yesterday, the Supreme Court temporarily blocking the lower court judge's order, granting the Trump administration a stay while litigation plays out, which is super significant because it marks the first time that the high court has weighed in on Trump's efforts to gut the federal bureaucracy. But as far as how that fits into what we're talking about today, the filings in that case stated that these cuts come from Trump's January 20th order, cutting off all foreign aid and giving relevant agencies 90 days to review which USAID program should continue. And so largely, the only real new thing that we have are numbers that illustrate the sheer scale of these efforts. And as far as specifics, according to a State Department memo accessed by the Associated Press, the administration says it will eliminate the vast majority of multi-year USAID contracts, right? 5,800 of 6,200 total, which together are worth $54 billion. And that is on top of almost half of all State Department grants, with the memo saying that the administration is scrapping 4,100 of those 9,100 awards, which is a cut of $4.4 billion. Now, that said, as
Oh, yeah,
far as
yeah.
the
Of
contracts
course,
are
man.
still in place, we don't know the exact details there, but they could be part of a waiver program that Secretary of State Marco Rubio implemented that gave exemptions to the funding freeze for organizations that provide what's described as life-saving humanitarian assistance. Though, very notably here, it's been widely reported that funds for the life-saving aid have still been frozen, and according to the AP, many of those waivers were not enacted, and groups said Thursday that even programs that had been initially identified as life-saving had lost their funding permanently in the new orders. For now,
I don't. Is he going to talk about it? Hold on. Of course, Phil doesn't talk about it. Phil is a very good, impartial news observer for the most part. I've been chirping in his comments like, you need to like pick a side here because it's us against the Nazis. Like, stop like being kind of wishy-washy with it. He's not going to mention though, tomorrow is an economic blackout date in the States. Don't pay for anything. Don't use your cards. Don't go anywhere. Don't get gas. Don't get food. Don't do anything. Don't buy anything online. None of that. The most you can do is if you have a mom and pop store nearby and you have cash, go there. But do not spend money if you can avoid spending money. It's all over Blue Sky. Hey, look, furries. What the fuck? What? I deserve the Nobel Pulitzer. Laura Loomer's just mad she didn't get a copy of the Epstein files. Like, that's literally it. She's just mad about that. Oh, God. You see this right here? I love seeing this. This is gold. I love that. That gets me hard as a rock. Never helps the oppressor. Sorry. Not apolitical. Yeah, pretty much. Sorry, let me find... Hold on. I got it on my profile somewhere. Economic black... Here we go. Economic boycott. This is Patton Oswalt. So someone of notoriety is saying, don't buy shit tomorrow. But this is all over the place. Mark Hamill tweeted this earlier. I'm of the mind that we should call all Blue Sky posts tweets. Kind of like how, like, you still say, like, occasionally, I guess occasionally now, people still say Skype when you use a Zoom or if you use a Slack or whatever. That's good. All right, let's get back to the video before I get off my rails.
everything's still kind of in limbo there, and we're having to wait to see how that plays out. But from that, we jump to the second big piece of Trump administration news, and that is that the Pentagon has now issued a memo ordering the military to remove transgender troops who are currently enlisted. You know, this move actually represents a major shift from Trump's
like,
first
why?
because while the Defense Department under Trump's first administration effectively banned trans people from joining the military.
Sorry, real quick, like, you could have like a trans man and a trans woman armed with like knives only, like slaughter like 100 brown militants by themselves, and Pete Hegseth would still be like, they make our military weak. And it's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I don't think I couldn't know. I don't think for a second I could hold a candle to any trans person like in active duty like military right now. Like, welcome to being an out of shape civilian in Trump's America, Mr. Let's defund the FDA and cut vaccines. Like, it's if they committed to that and they took that career, like, good on them. I can't compete with that. I don't want to compete with that. Like, if they're willing to serve and they're going to give their lives to this country for us, like, let them serve. Like, what are you doing?
It did allow troops already enlisted to stay. Now, of course, there, Biden reversed that policy when he assumed power, but shortly after taking office, Trump signed an executive order that didn't immediately prohibit trans people from serving in the military, but did pave the way for a ban by directing the Pentagon to revise medical standards. With then, not long after that, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issuing a memo on February 7th that was obtained by the media and said that the military would stop accepting any new trans troops who wished to join the military, as well as also pausing all gender-affirming care for trans service members who had already joined. But still, at the time, the memo just said that trans troops troops currently serving would be treated with dignity and respect, and noted that the DoD had the authority to provide additional policy and implementation guidance to those service members. So as a result, the public and the media were operating under the assumption that this was similar to the policy enacted under Trump's first term, right? That new trans recruits couldn't join, but those already serving could continue. But the memo that we're talking about today actually predates the.
We're gonna have to do an underground railroad for trans people. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, leave them alone.
Court filings in a lawsuit
like, what
against
the
Trump's
fuck?
order, right? And that February 6th memo explicitly states that, quote, military service by service members and applicants for military service who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria is incompatible with military service. With it then going on to say that the only exception will be when there is a compelling government interest to keep a current service member or admit a new applicant who directly supports warfighting capabilities. But those people will be given waivers on a case-by-case basis, and they will have to meet certain requirements. And for current troops, those requirements include demonstrating, quote, 36 consecutive months of stability in their sex without clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of function. Though they'll also have to prove that they never pursued medical.
This is such a fucking waste of time. Like, this is just creating the biggest problem for no fucking reason. On top, well, that's what this administration is. It's just the Republican game plan for decades has been like cause problems, blame the Dems, say you can fix them, and then just get in there and just start slashing stuff to make them worse. Rinse and repeat until like the services and goods are gone. And it's like this is the mandate the Trump administration thinks they have. Well, they're just saying they have. They don't. This is what they want to do. They don't care about what they think the people want. Otherwise, they'd start listening to constituents and stop hiding from them in town halls. But yeah, this is just like creating all the best case scenario for the outcome of this presidency is we waste 4 years. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is like, which, you know, it's far from off the table and it's very likely going to happen, is martial law and jailing of dissidents and just like lynching people in the street, turning the military, the National Guard, the U.S. Marshals on the American people and just like corralling us until we behave and are docile. And then the number one nuclear power military in the world will expand outward and conquer Canada and Mexico. And like like, if we fail to stop our civil war, like, this is going to be the civil world war. Like, if we can't stop the Nazis here, they take over. And then again, it's a reverse civil war and a reverse world war where an expansionist empire is branching out over in the Americas instead over in Europe. And it's just... we could have had Bernie. We could have had Bernie and it would have been so fucking great. It would have been fire. Because you know what? Even if he couldn't get shit passed, you know he'd be cussing out like all the Republicans, being like, why do you hate your constituents? Why do you hate America? Like when student debt got like crushed, Biden should have been out there like, I'm trying to do this for you. Like, I want you to have this. And instead he's just like, he's a hero. He's a god. Kamala lost and disappeared. Bernie has lost like 8 times and is constantly like, I'm here for the American people. I want you to have a better tomorrow before I go. And Kamala's just off like, I signed with CAA. I'm getting my bag. And it's like, you losing was not you being done. You listen, I understand like you got thrown into the race as a last ditch effort. And it got fucked up. You fucked it up too. You know that, Kamala? You fucked it up a little bit too. But you don't get to back out after losing. Especially not with this race. Like, she should have been the leader that we needed right now. Instead, we got left with Jeffries and Schumer and Carville running the Dems, being like, saying all their BS. But Bernie going out and being like, this is a coup. We're losing the nation to Nazis. I'm going to do an oligarch tour explaining how bad this is and how bad these people are. Like, and again, like, after just getting, he's got 20 years of getting shellacked, but he's still fighting for us. Like, that's the right choice is always the hardest choice to make. And I've not always been capable of making that. And that's why I admire how much Bernie is still trying to save the American people in spite of themselves, in spite of hating him in some cases. We don't deserve him, but I'm grateful for him.
Will transition and agree to abide by certain standards for the sex they were assigned at birth, like using bathrooms that match their biological sex. And as far as the service members who do not get the waiver, the memo directs the secretaries of each military branch to identify all trans troops within 30 days and begin separation actions with non-exempt members 30 days after that. And notably, all of this is it's not currently known exactly how many trans people serve in the military, though advocates place upper estimates at 15,000, but officials have also said that it's in the low thousands. Regardless,
I mean, D, do you want me to start streaming on Twitch too? Like,
like for example, Air Force Master Sergeant Logan Ireland,
my problem with that is like I'm here because I want to get these. I want to be a funnel for like the wayward kick red pills. I don't. And Hassan's on Twitch. Like I'm not going to be able to compete with him if I. Which big dreaming, yeah. If I ever get up there, it'd be nice. It'd be great. I'd rather do that than my current job, but like that's wishful thinking. And I don't want to give Bezos money. I know the guys that run Kick are also complete assholes and monsters, but they're not Bezos. Like, so yeah, I'll tell you what, you help me get big here, I'll think about it. How's that sound? That good? You like that?
And drugs, including deadly fentanyl, which constituted a national emergency, with him then saying that the tariffs would be in place until the crisis is alleviated. But then Trump quickly announced that he'd be pausing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico from taking effect for a month after leaders from both countries promised to take measures to address his concern. You know, yesterday, a lot of people thought that Trump was going to extend those pauses because of conflicting statements made by the president himself and his administration. Because during a press conference, we saw Trump say,
"We've lost millions of people due to fentanyl. It comes mostly
he forgot he called Zelensky a dictator.
And
it was like 5 days ago. No, it was last week. It was last week.
I was going to do it on April 1st, but I'm a little bit superstitious, so I made it April 2nd. The tariffs go on. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think you're going to see something that's going to be amazing.
Google is the owners of Kick? Are you serious?
Told reporters that Trump was actually
I thought it was a bunch of like gambling startups.
With also Trump
again, I know they were bastards. I've got a Twitch channel.
I can. Drugs are still pouring into our country from Mexico and Canada at very high
Jeb, keep track of anyone who wants me to be here on Twitch, if you don't mind. I appreciate it.
China. With him then going on to announce that on the same day, an additional 10% will be imposed on China on top of the 10% he already set earlier this month. With Trump then adding the April 2nd reciprocal tariff date will remain in full force and effect. You know, with that, as of recording, it's unclear exactly what those reciprocal tariffs will be, and if he's saying that he'll be putting additional new tariffs on Mexico and Canada on that April 2nd date. So it's also possible he could be talking about a new 25% tariff that he said he'd be putting on the EU during the same.
They're bastards, right? Like I know they're bastards.
That is going on. And then we'll get to more news in just a moment. But first, you know, if I'm being honest, I knew almost nothing about.
Wasn't one of them?
But thanks to today's sponsor,
Heritage, one of them's train wrecks.
That had me really curious to learn more. Like we discovered that my great grandfather was a pattern maker, and I found my great grandmother's passport application from 1924, and it's a photo of her and my maternal grandmother on the same passport traveling back to Ireland to see my great grandmother.
Oh wait, what am I doing?
By the way, I didn't know I had a little Irish in me. Did not know little to start like.
Yeah, no, pause real quick. I forgot Trainwrecks was one of the owners of Kick, but I mean, like, I like the idea of taking money away from him. Like, and I don't, which again, I'm not taking any money yet, but like, I like the idea of taking money away from him. I don't want to try on Twitch for two reasons. Because one, Hassan's already there. Like, if people want to listen to leftist commentary, they're going to go to Hassan over there because he's not over here. So, like, I like to think there's a market for it over here. Potentially, like, we'll see. There's a market, and then there's also like my desire to get these red-pilled little groypers in here and like, brainwash them the right way. I don't know how to say that right. I am getting very tired right now. Basically, like, show them a better way. That, and again, like, doing it on Twitch, like, if I ever, well, that's the other thing. Like, yeah, Jeb is right. Like, I swear like a fucking sailor. I'll have to, like, there's TOS and shit over there that I would have to be much more, I'd have to watch myself a lot more. Jeb, thank you for mentioning that, Jeb. So, like, look, I'm here for now. I'm going to be here for the foreseeable future. I want to build a following and get things going. Which, D, did I send you the link for the Discord? Spread the Discord around. Like, which, Jeb, I know we're keeping an eye on it. Like, right now, no one's joined in or acted crazy or anything. It's still a very small number of people. But, like, right now, it's about putting my ideas out there, expanding, giving people a much more casual option to relax and ingest, again, leftist positions. So yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Like, no Twitch, again, for the foreseeable future. But I feel like we can do good here for now. These things are subject to change. We are not an inflexible bureaucracy or a psychotic billionaire. I am open to criticism and I am willing to adjust. But right now, we're sticking here. All right, let's skip this ad. I can't believe I let the ad roll on for a little bit. What do we got here? Oh, yeah, the Canada stuff. This is good. I like this.
Next up, we should talk about Donald Trump actually helping liberals. And specifically today, I'm talking about Canada's embattled Liberal Party. Because for years now, that party has been losing popularity under the leadership of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, to the point that it was expected they would be pounded in the upcoming elections by the Conservative Party. Right? I mean, just 6 weeks ago, the Conservatives had a 26-point lead in polling, with their strategy largely being to just attack the extremely unpopular Trudeau. Now, what we're seeing is that things are taking a turn. And while some of that is due to the anticipation of a new Liberal leader on March 9th after Trudeau announced that he was stepping down, another big factor is Trump's rhetoric. Right? Trump has made it seem like the U.S. is not committed to defense treaties, is imposing massive tariffs, and ultimately wants to make Canada the 51st state. With all of that leading to a huge wave of anti-Trump sentiment across Canada, to the point that 85% of Canadians say they are replacing or have replaced American goods when shopping.
I feel so bad for how badly we're attacking them, but good on them. Letter Kenny all the way.
They've been spending a lot of time comparing.
Give your balls a tug, tit fucker.
Over the past year. Like with just this last January, they tweeted, Trump just won the New Hampshire primary, moving him one
Hey,
step
D,
closer
do you think
to
I
the
should
White
send
House.
MD the link?
Polyev
Do you think he
ripping a
cares?
page out of his playbook. But that, accompanied by this video.
You have corrupt media.
Hell yeah,
in this
Jeb.
country.
All day, every day.
Absolute meltdown.
Love 'em.
Bought and paid for media.
We're spending $170 billion for faraway land.
He'd rather spread falsehood about faraway foreign lands, Mr. Speaker.
Our
Get him.
country
Get
is
him.
rigged, it's crooked, and it's broken.
Everything is broken.
The left-wing censorship regime.
Their woke censorship ideology.
We have to bring it home, right? Gotta bring it home.
Let's bring it home.
And now, more recently, at the
See that
debates for
shit?
Liberal leadership this week, we saw
Fuck
the
that
candidates
guy.
really blasting him, saying things like,
Who's the worst person to stand up to Donald Trump? It's Pierre Polyev. He worships the man. He uses his language. It's not the right person for our country at this crucial time.
you know, considering that they're both on the right side of the political spectrum.
Yeah,
a lot of
we'll
those
talk about it.
comparisons
Like,
are
again,
even
I'm
if they
flexible.
are sometimes
I'm
astray.
starting out
This
here.
party as a whole
And
is
again,
more
do you think I should give
center-right.
MD
You know,
the
we're
link? Do you
talking
think he'll
about
care?
candidates, so the center of their politics is slightly to the left of ours. So for example, like with LGBTQ plus rights, Polyev has made it clear that same-sex marriage is legal and it will remain legal when I am prime minister. Full stop. But also, at the same time, he's made it clear that he's not interested in trans issues.
I can't believe I forgot how
About
different the
as much
TOS
about
is over here.
Now, with all
Didn't
this,
Aiden,
we've
wasn't
seen
Aiden Ross
conservative
streaming
strategists also
porn?
saying they're not worried about
Fuck Aiden
comparisons,
Ross.
though it does seem like they are working. You don't have to just take my word for it. A recent polling shows the Liberals surging to 38%.
God damn it, I didn't change
compared
the
to
title.
Conservatives'
This is not my first
36%.
stream.
Right, just an insane comeback compared to the 26-point lead the Conservatives used to have. And notably, we're seeing other major pollsters across the country having similar results. Now, notably here, if the elections were held today, neither party would have enough to form a government on their own, and they'd need the support of various smaller parties, which then could lead to highly unstable governments that usually only last a year or two. But notably, the election is not happening today, and it's going to be very interesting to see if this trend continues or if we see a pullback. And so with that, I would pose a question to you Canadian beautiful bastards out there. You're our second biggest country when it comes to viewership, and I'd really love to know, what are your thoughts here? What have you seen changing in conversations on the ground? Because as an outsider looking in, I just see those moments where it's like people are booing the American national anthem and things like that.
Dude, fuck
But I
us.
wanna
Like,
know
we
about
suck
the
right now.
one-to-one day-to-day stuff. But then next up, I want to give you some different news. Right, through the last week or two of videos, we've been talking a little bit back and forth of how I want to end these shows. And today, when it comes to the news, I want to end on a human interest piece and some good news. Right, and starting with the human interest, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Bryant Lin. He's a 50-year-old professor of medicine at Stanford University, a primary care physician, and the founder of the Stanford Center for Asian Health Research and Education. You know, he's also a married father of 2 teenage sons who last spring developed a nasty cough that just kept getting worse and worse. And when he got a CT scan, they found a large mass in his lungs, which was confirmed to be cancer. And they found that it had spread, metastasizing in his liver, his
Jesus.
bones, and his brain. And to make matters worse, it was advancing fast. Right? And so Dr. Lin's weight, it dropped. He was in pain. His doctor put him on a targeted therapy meant to attack the specific mutation that was driving his cancer. And he also had to go through chemotherapy. And after a few cycles of that, his breathing and coughing were getting better, and he continued teaching and seeing patients. But still, Dr. Lin estimated that he only has roughly 2 years left until the medicine that he's on stops working. And so he started thinking about what he wanted to do with the short remainder of his life, which then brings us to 4 months after Dr. Lin learned that he had terminal cancer, when he stood in front of his class for a 10-week medical school course titled From Diagnosis to Dialogue.
Real quick, not enough people do cancer screenings. It's really something you should do like every 5 years, starting when you're 20. Like, go in, get the full battery of tests, get yourself fully addressed, and then like every 5 years, go back in, check it out. Always keep an eye on lumps and everything. Watch out for weird moles. 42% of Americans get cancer. So you want to, and I mean, I think we're a higher risk because of like how shit our regulatory bodies are, like with like all the things that are out there between PFAS and all sorts of other nonsense. But it goes to like overseas and everything too. Like, you should always get checked for cancer, because the biggest cancer prevention is catching it early, getting it cut out, getting treatment. And I mean, we're not going to be getting any new treatments anytime soon, given what the Trump administration is doing. So get yourselves checked.
A doctor's real-time battle with cancer, with registrations reportedly filling up almost immediately and students cramming into the room, some sitting on the floor and even being turned away at the door. At the beginning of the class, Dr. Lin opened a letter that he had gotten years earlier from a patient dying of chronic kidney disease that read, "I wanted to thank you so much for taking such good care of me in my old age. You treated me as you would treat your own father." And with that, Dr. Lin said that this class was like his own letter, part of what I'm doing to give back to my community as I go through this. But with that, notably, this class wasn't the doom and gloom existential crisis-inducing experience that you might expect. In fact, you had the New York Times saying that Dr. Lin's students reported that he remained upbeat and was cracking jokes throughout the class, or with him reportedly making jokes about his wife trying to get him to clean up his diet and joking around with his oncologist who came in as a gift.
This reminds me of two things. There was a guy that made a Disney ride like 30 years ago. It was based off of Aladdin. It was like a magic carpet experience ride, and the dude gave like a mini TED talk after the ride was made, and he found out he had like a terminal diagnosis of some kind, and it was some insane like disease. Like, he was still like fully functioning, physically healthy and everything, but his body was just giving out on him, and he was going to be dead in like 2 months. And he gave a speech about like all the things he had accomplished in his life, including that ride, which is now closed, unfortunately. But like, I don't think I would have the strength or courage to do something like that. Like, it's impressive.
As speaker. You also saw things like one student who reportedly took this class in order to learn how to broach the conversation of his mother's cancer journey with her, asking Dr. Lin about his motives for teaching this class, right? And whether it was some way of regaining a sense of control over his diagnosis. To which Dr. Lin replied no, saying that he tries not to dwell on the things outside his control, and adding, "I'm very conscious that I have limited time left, so I think about that. How am I going to live my life today? Is this a worthwhile way to spend my time?" Which, I think is such an important thing for all of us to consider. But also, like, Dr. Lin's generally jovial nature doesn't mean that the class didn't cover some heavy topics. There was also a session on having difficult conversations where Dr. Lin stressed that doctors need to be honest enough to say, "I don't know," which was actually even a response that he himself had to get used to hearing amid all the uncertainties about his diagnosis. Also, in another session, they talked about the psychological impact of cancer, how disappointed he felt when he saw the scan showed his tumors had shrunk but not disappeared, or because he was still hoping for a miracle. But it also wasn't just feelings and going through it, right? He brought in people like a thoracic surgeon who placed Dr. Lin's diagnosis in the broader context of lung cancer among non-smokers, especially in Asian populations. What they're saying there, in the US, about 20% of people diagnosed with lung cancer never smoked, but adding that in Asian populations and Asian American populations, that could be really up to 80% in some racial and ethnic groups. And then, there was also a session on caregiving where Dr. Lin brought in his wife, and she talked about how she was overwhelmed at first. She was just buried under a bunch of medical terms that she didn't understand, and she reportedly spoke to the class as if they were, or at some point would themselves be, caregivers. And with that, telling them to lean on friends and family, but keep in mind that organizing people who offer to help, even with the best of intentions, is a task in and of itself. And lastly there, she acknowledged how hard it was to let go of the instinct to plan for the future, saying we just have to go through it one day at a time. But Dr. Lin also had experiences that didn't make the syllabus, right? Telling the New York Times that more than once he felt like time was flying by him, or he'd see an older person out in public and be reminded that he likely wouldn't live to that age, or having to explain to his sons what his
God,
diagnosis
I was
At
not
the
expecting
end of
something
these
this
10 weeks,
heavy.
he told
Holy
his class
shit.
how lucky he is for his family, his teaching assistants, his colleagues, the community at Stanford, his students and residents, his patients, and his friends, saying, so I close in saying that I may have had a tough break, but I have an awful lot to live for. Thank you, and it's been an honor. You know, notably, at the beginning of this class, Dr. Lin told the New York Times that he hoped that some of the students that took his course would then go on to dedicate themselves to cancer care. You know, it appears that he's gotten his wish, because when he asked how many were considering a career in the field at the end of the course, roughly
Hey, we got 6 viewers. Thank you for being here.
Doctors saying that they would remember
I appreciate
Dr.
it.
Lin's story when trying to understand
Really?
their patients' experiences. You know, also, the effect of this class, it goes beyond just career choices. With, among other things, several students saying that they pushed their parents to get
Jeff,
screened
can
for
you
lung
can you
cancer
drop a
because of the
link
class,
for the
and
Discord
one
in the
master's
chat
student reportedly
if you'd be
cited
so
working
kind?
with
I don't want to
medical
fuck around with it
vocabulary
right
about
now.
lung cancer into Mandarin
I would
class for
appreciate it.
medical trainees that they plan to assist in. You know, I mentioned Dr. Lin today because, one, I was just inspired by this story, but two, it again serves as a reminder to live for now, live for yourself, live for the people around
Oh, you
you that
did?
you care about, affect a life. And if just some of us can siphon that clarity, it's the stuff that we know in our head, but we don't activate because we don't have the level of clarity that those
Can I not
with
see
terminal
it, or
diagnoses get. That this
whatever?
is all gone one
Any
day.
word on
Something
Pat? I
that
haven't seen
we
Pat in a
think of
minute.
the abstract, right? It's a future thing. We push it out of our head with all the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month bullshit. And how many of us, myself included, make decisions as if there isn't a fucking ticking clock? And while I hope Dr. Lin got something from this, this helps him process
D, you take it
things.
easy. Thank you
I
for coming
commend
in,
him
man.
for being so
Appreciate
giving
you.
in his final years. But then, as promised, some good/hopeful news. Because if you ever hoped that there was a pill to make your dog live longer, surprise, it's actually a thing, and it just passed a key FDA hurdle. Right? So the pill is made by a company called Loyal, which is a biotech company based out of San Francisco, and they have reportedly raised more than $150 million since 2019.
I gotta talk to my vet
for the
about
development
this.
of their lifespan extending drug that is, for now, focused on dogs. With the drug's goal being to improve a dog's overall metabolic fitness, or their body's ability to convert nutrients into energy and regulate hormones. Because that declines in both dogs and humans as they age. And now the FDA has certified Loyal's daily pill as having a, quote, reasonable expectation of effectiveness at extending the life of senior dogs. That said, you know, there's still a couple of hoops that have to be jumped through. The Center for Veterinary Medicine still needs to certify that the drug
Oh,
is safe
shit.
and that Loyal
I'm
can
fucked.
manufacture it at the appropriate scale before vets can prescribe it. With
But
the
hey,
rest
that's good
now
for,
being a prescription that
Scooby-Doo's.
keeps dogs 10 years old and up at least 14 pounds. And this is Loyal CEO
Why am I blanking
Celine
on that
Haliwa
breed? Holy
called the
shit, my
FDA's
brain
initial
is
recognition
effed.
here a key step, and estimated that the whole process should be complete by the end of the year. And notably, you have the Washington Post reporting that Loyal plans on launching the pill under an FDA clearance for animal drugs called conditional approval, which allows a company to start selling a treatment that's been deemed safe and reasonably expected to work, so they can gain more data to prove its efficacy while it's on the market. Now, notably, a big glaring unanswered question right now is the price tag, with Celine saying that the cost is yet to be determined, but she said that her goal is to make it as accessible as possible, hopefully less than $100 a month, with her adding that she'd rather see the pill widely adopted than, quote, jacking up the price and getting the millionaire dogs on the drug. But also, you would
I mean,
Celine said the
$100 a
potential
month
for
is
this,
still
it
pretty
could go
steep.
beyond dogs. But they're telling the
I love
Washington
my
Post,
dogs,
if we
though.
can successfully delay the onset and severity of age-related diseases in dogs, it's extremely compelling evidence that it will also do that in humans. Notably with this, not everyone's on board with the idea, with people like, for example, Deborah Cato, co-director of the Stanford Center on Longevity, saying that while the idea of just giving their dogs a pill to make them live longer may be appealing to owners, problems can often pop up with new drugs that are still in testing. With her then also saying with so many rescue dogs in need of loving homes, maybe holding on longer than is natural isn't actually a good thing. With her saying that one of the many things that she admires about dogs is the
That's a
capacity
very
to live in the
tough,
moment, saying when they get close to the end,
judgment
they
call
accept
to
it.
make.
And in a way, I think it makes it easier for humans, actually. Endings are going to happen. You know, with that said, I'd love to know your thoughts here, especially the pet owners, cat owners, dog owners. Let me know. Is this something you'd be open to, or are you of a mindset of, no, fuck you, Fido, it's your time? But then, finally today, let's talk about yesterday and some...
I'm good on the commentary. Okay. Democracy. Oh, God, we're not going to watch that one first. I don't have the energy for that. We've got streamer drama. The Dem leader sucking. Trump forcing his cabinet to clap for Elon. This whole thing with the Epstein stuff. God, that was dumb. I don't know what's happening here. I've got a big swath of stuff. Oof, that's a long watch, but it's interesting. What's the vibe? Oh God, let's get out of there. Jeb, you got any preferences? You just want me to roll with it? Let democracy manifest. Any is good. Okay. And since you're the only active one, I will take your word as gospel. Let's watch about how... Where'd it go? Yeah, this one. We're going to watch this one because this is...
All right, we have some breaking news. We
Adam
officially
Mockler.
have a video of somebody scrolling through the Epstein files, and it was entirely disappointing. I mean, a lot of conservative influencers
dumbest shit.
are disappointed. I'm sure your conservative coworker or your QAnon uncle or whoever in your life is excited for this is going to be disappointed because it was all a scam. It was all a ruse, and Trump tried to use
It's all
conservative
redacted.
influencers to hide something. The question is, what are they trying to hide in the Epstein files? Because Trump is refusing to release them. Remember, Epstein originally died under the first Trump presidency, and I'm not saying that Trump's connected, but I'm just asking questions. here.
That's
We
a
do have an
conspiracy
article that's
theory I
titled,
do subscribe
Trump
to.
DOJ
Like, I don't
feeds
think he killed
Jeffrey
himself.
Epstein documents to
But that's-
underwhelm
it is a
conservative
conspiracy theory.
influencers. Quote,
And I don't have
"You should
proof to back
feel
up anything. I just-
frustrated," says
that's
the
my
conservative
position.
influencers, because it was incredibly counterproductive. It was just... It was really lame. The Justice Department released a handful of files on notorious sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein to a hand-selected crop of right-wing social media influencers.
Like the dumbest ones.
The entire thing was so bizarre.
Lives at TikTok?
It
That-
was like
that
a
bitch is
fever
fucking
dream.
crazy.
It was like an episode of Twin
my
Peaks
opinion.
or a David Lynch movie, because Libs of TikTok. You guys have heard of Libs of TikTok, right? The woman on Twitter who is always posting videos of kindergarten
This woman has the ear of the defense secretary. Like, she's insane. Like,
teachers, and she's even caused bomb threats to get called into schools because she
Yeah.
post a video of some gay teacher and be like, this teacher is spreading transgenderism, and then there'll be a bomb threat called into school. She's just a terrible, terrible human being, but she does have a big platform on Twitter, and that's why Donald Trump chose her, chose a few other like conservative influencers from Twitter, basically cat turd level people. This says
Cat
Chaya
turd
Reichik
sucks.
from
I fucking
Libs of
hate that
TikTok
guy.
is grinning ear to ear, gleefully flaunting her useless Epstein binder, packed with information that's mostly already public, while 250 real victims are still fighting for actual answers. And here's the thing. This is what conspiracy theorists want, and this is a trap that you guys should be careful of falling into. When it comes to conspiracy theorists, they just want to feel like they're in on something special. They want to feel like they know something unique, and life isn't as boring. I had a bunch of friends in high school like this, people that would smoke
not just
a lot
that
of
life
weed,
isn't
which
boring,
is
like
fine,
that
part's
they're
fine, but then they would
essential
they
to
would always have
existence.
these vast conspiracy theories where they
Pizza
are the
Gay
same
guy
you.
thought he was gonna be
They
a
are
hero,
Neo in
and
the
it's like,
Matrix,
no,
and they
dude,
know
you're
something
just crazy.
special. And it turns into this game for them. And I'm like, hey, you're talking about real things. You're talking about real medical conditions, real lives here. Not everything. Not every school shooting is some conspiracy theory. And
Yeah,
that's
it's just
how I
angry
feel about
teenagers.
Chaya and Libs of TikTok and a lot of the Epstein file people. Did Epstein do terrible things? Yes. Do we want the files? Yes. But all of the conspiracy theory people about Bill Gates and George Soros, they want to feel special. They want to feel like they're in on something special, and that's the trap of conspiracy theories. Everyone wants to be Neo in the Matrix, but life isn't the Matrix. It's actually pretty boring, to be honest. The level of tone deafness here is off the charts, says Krasenstein. Imagine treating a case of child sex trafficking like a cheap prop for social media clout, while the people who actually suffered are left in the dark. It's performative, it's grotesque, it's exactly the kind of distraction they want. That is what I'm saying. It's a distraction. Trump is trying to distract people because, again, when we go through this video of the Epstein files, there's really nothing new in them. And we're going to go through the video, but first, make sure you're subscribed. Scroll down and look how
Adam's
close we
pretty
are to
good.
1 million subscribers.
He's got about 1 million subscribers. I, like,
986K. So make
yeah, I
sure you
can't compete.
subscribe. Somebody said, why are the Epstein files and binders given to clout-chasing social media influencers? They are using this horrific crime for clicks.
Yeah.
Release the files in full now without editorializing. And these are some of the influencers. One is named DC Drano, literally just a conservative shitposter, but I guess being a conservative shitposter is enough.
Like, am I wrong to say,
get
as I
news of
call myself the
deputy FBI
Dandelorian, that
director, like
DC
Dan
Drano is
Bongino,
worse?
to
Like,
get
that's
you
worse,
into,
right?
I don't know, the DOJ, anywhere. But here we have Libs of TikTok, some creator who's just a terrible person, and then we have DC Drano. All these conservative creators have
Look at
access
those
to
hats.
this information that is
They're holding them up
already
like YouTube, like
online.
platinum
And let me
buttons.
just reiterate, conspiracy theorists, people like this, they just want to feel special.
This reminds me when Devin Nunes ran over to the White House to try to report on like some inside dealing, and he was just giving like the White House back a memo that like they sent to him. Like, they're just making a big show out of like just nothing. Fuck.
Libs of TikTok doesn't actually care about the victims, and there were victims.
She doesn't care about anything
It's easy to kind of
except
forget
like
that there were many
ogling
victims within the
Taylor
Epstein
Lorenz.
crimes. I mean, of course there were, but after the suicide and everything that followed after, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget that people were actually affected. And you know, the disgusting thing is, during all of the Epstein file distractions, you know what they could have been distracting from, other than the massive tax cuts they're about to pass, other than prices skyrocketing, other than the wars resparking. They could have been distracting from the fact that Trump helped lobby for the Andrew Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan Tate, to come back home from Romania after being credibly accused of rape and sex trafficking. This says, it is disgusting that our president lobbied for special favors for these vile human traffickers. If you support this, you have no principles and no grounds to demand the, quote, Epstein list or talk about protecting women or anything else. You know, I want to start going a lot harder on conservatives and MAGA Republicans as I debate them over the next few years, over the next decade, but mainly over the next year or so, or the next, under the Trump term, because these people are so performative, but they don't actually care. I will make this, I will credibly say right now, Trump supporters don't actually care about women being abused, about children being abused. They use it as a cudgel to attack liberals and to attack immigrants and other groups that they hate. Think about it. Matt Gaetz was protected by the entire Republican Party. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson had the...
Joni Ernst, an alleged survivor, I'm sorry, I'm going to say alleged now because I can't believe that she did this. An alleged sexual assault survivor voted in Pete Hegseth, a credibly accused rapist, alleged rapist, well-known alcoholic and alleged Nazi. Like, she voted for him. She confirmed him. Yeah, there is no morals on the Republican side. Bill Cassidy, a doctor, voted and confirmed for RFK Jr., a man who has credibly been accused of killing children in American Samoa and is a heavily anti-vax individual that doesn't believe in science. Like, it's the Republican Party has no standards. It's just screaming and crying and punching down at people. And it's like, that's got to stop. And it's like, if you like Dems, like, stand up. Like, they want to be bullies to punch down at people. That's when you can fight back. It's okay to punch people that are punching down at other people for no fucking reason. All right? That's how you stop bullying.
Take intentional steps to protect Matt Johnson after he had been exposed for this sex trafficking ring. Even Donald Trump took intentional steps by appointing him as the Attorney General. But they also run defense for the Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan Tate, after all of this, and then they claim to want the Epstein files because they think maybe Bill Clinton is on them, when it's like, hey, Trump is likely on them as well. We also
I don't give a fuck if Bill Clinton goes to jail. Fuck him.
Putting out troll tweets about this. They said, hey, the Epstein files were released, and then you click on it, and it takes you to the Rick Roll. It takes you to the Rick Roll. I mean, is it funny? I don't really find it that funny. The Rick Roll used to be hilarious, but when Republicans are now running defense for sex traffickers like Matt Gaetz, and they're being performative about Epstein's list, it's just, I'm sick of it. But here we go. DC Drano, the conservative influencer who got the list, went live and scrolled through it. This says, LMAO, that moron DC Drano guy went live with the bombshell Epstein files they gave them in those fancy binders. And if we just scroll through it, Look at this. Page 1, page 2, page 3. I'd say about 98% of it is redacted.
all redacted. It's just redacted.
Names. Redacted names. And then as we learned more and more, Ken Klippenstein said, the president has the authority to unilaterally declassify documents. If the Epstein files are heavily redacted, either Trump wants it that way or the FBI is being insubordinate. And we know that the FBI is full of Trump loyalists, so the only logical conclusion is that the Trump administration wants the Epstein files.
It's nice to watch stuff blow up in
redacted.
Trump's face.
Even this Trump supporter was complaining. This Trump supporter, whose bio says pursuing truth, liberty, Jesus Christ, and personal sovereignty, said, the Phase 1 Epstein file or Epstein binders are filled with heavily redacted versions of information that's been public for 5 years. This entire PR stunt is one of the craziest scams I've ever seen. What a disaster. Again, the
Phase
entire
1.
PR stunt is a crazy scam.
That's
Coming from a
awesome.
Trump
They're the exact
supporter here.
same thing.
It's all redacted. Most of these names, all of these names were publicly available already. You don't hear anybody new. I mean, oh wow, Ghislaine Maxwell's name is on the Epstein
Ghislaine
list.
Maxwell
That's
was there, oh
crazy.
no.
Ed Krasenstein then says, no, the FBI didn't release any Epstein files publicly. Everything listed below was already
I mean, he's been
available
like
under
there.
the Biden
He was
admin.
accused of
What is
raping
the
a
Trump
minor on his
administration
plane and
hiding?
fucking
Dump it all publicly?
Melania for the
What's
first time
taking
on
so long?
on Epstein's
Why are
plane,
they so
allegedly.
scared? And
Like,
I'll leave
such
it
a
at
piece
that.
of shit.
What is Trump trying to hide? What are the people around Trump trying to hide? Really quickly, if we reverse the roles, and if Biden failed to release the Epstein files after promising to do so, and then release some half-assed redacted version, people would be like, not only is Biden on the list, I bet you all of Biden's allies are on the list. I bet Kamala's on the list as well. So if we want to be like them, which we don't want to be like them, but if we want to play ball and get down and dirty, we could just say, hey,
Let me see.
I bet JD Vance and Kash Patel are on the list as well. I don't know. I digress. Make sure you drop a like.
I mean, God, Kash Patel's on the list somewhere. Elon screws disabled vets. There's so many wonderful things, so many wonderful, horrible things happening. It's amazing how, like, 2 months ago, people were screeching, the Biden crime family, the Biden crime family. And then, like, Donald Trump comes in and is like, I'm going to commit every crime known to man, and I'm going to invent some new ones. Like, holy shit. Yeah, no, like, there's, if the Dems ever come to power again, like, there's nothing the Republicans can say about anything they do. Like, every one of them was complicit in untold horrors that are happening now and are going to happen over the next 4 years. Again, it's like Bill Cassidy, like, you shouldn't be a practicing doctor anymore. Yeah, the Trump Saint family, yeah. But yeah, it's like Bill Cassidy, you shouldn't be a doctor anymore. Like, you affirmed a man that derailed flu vaccines and got children killed and wants to get more children killed and doesn't think measles is a big deal. Like, you've enabled monsters and in turn become a monster yourself. And again, Jodi Ernst, an alleged sexual assault survivor, confirmed a credibly alleged sexual assault, like an alleged rapist in Pete Hegseth. Yeah, there is no moral ground anymore. There's no debating with them. Like, there's no more Dianne Feinstein giving, what's his name? Lindsey Graham hugs on the, was it Lindsey Graham? I think so. Yeah. God, like, yeah, giving hugs on the Senate floor. Like, there's no more of that. Like, partisanship needs to die. I mean, bipartisanship needs to die. Like, it's not doable anymore. It's like, when you get elected to office, there's really only one thing anyone expects from you. And it doesn't have to be your constituents, but everyone should expect from you that you're trying to improve the lives of both your constituents and then, by extension, the broader American public. And the Republican Party is just flat out against that. Like, that's just it. This upcoming reconciliation bill that they're going to do everything they can to jam through is entirely meant to fuck 30% of Americans. And when you fuck that many Americans, you're fucking all Americans. Because guess what? We're all stuck on this big continent in the middle of the ocean with each other. And it's like, if my neighbors are suffering, eventually that suffering is going to bleed over into my life too. We don't live on individual islands. That's not a thing. So yeah, like the Republican Party is not a political party anymore. They're like, again, if the Dems ever get power again, they're going to try to come back and they're going to be crying and screeching. And it's like, Dems, you just need to shout them down. You need to say, shut the fuck up. No one cares about Jewish space lasers or the Biden crime family or Hillary's emails, Benghazi. Like, where's Trey Gowdy right now? After his Benghazi bullshit? Where's Trey Gowdy? I want to know where that motherfucker is right now. What's he doing about this shit? Huh? Where's your fucking million investigations or whatever? Like, goddamn. It's fucking insane. All right, we're going to watch... this is just... That's Eric Prince. He's a monster. He thinks he's Solid Snake. Like, he dead ass thinks he's Solid Snake. Like, he's fucking crazy. The brother of Betsy DeVos, also a massive monster. Fuck both of them. Let me see. God. Let's watch... Oh. I'll tell you what. Let's watch 12 terrible things I missed them more. 12 more terrible things the FBI has done. That's great. I'm going to start this. I'm going to go to the bathroom and grab something to eat and check on my spouse since I believe I pissed them off earlier. I'll be right back in like 5 minutes. So enjoy in the meantime.
The FBI flooded the building with light and blasted them with sounds like dentist drills.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're discussing more heinous deeds committed by the FBI. For our criteria, we're only considering completely confirmed misdeeds.
USA Gymnastics, in concert with the FBI and the Olympic Committee, were working together to conceal that Larry Nassar was a predator.
Viola Liuzzo. In the 1960s, the FBI targeted various members of the civil rights movement, including activist Viola Liuzzo, who frequently gave rides to fellow activists. In March 1965, Liuzzo and 19-year-old African-American Leroy Moton were driving back from Selma towards Montgomery, Alabama. Local members of the Ku Klux Klan saw them together and shot and killed Liuzzo. Turns out, one of them was an FBI informant. This wasn't just covered up. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover smeared her reputation, telling the press that she had a substance use disorder and implying that she had a sexual relationship to Moton. There was no evidence for any of this, and FBI involvement only became public knowledge in 1978. The death of Ibrahim Todashev. The Boston Marathon bombing of 2013 was a major tragedy, and if you've seen our previous FBI video, you'll know they don't have the best track record for handling tragedies. A month later, they interviewed Ibrahim Todashev, a friend of the bombers.
He wasn't even nervous because he's not involved in anything.
After being interviewed for 8 hours in his apartment, Todashev allegedly attacked them, and FBI agent Aaron McFarlane shot him dead. They subsequently delayed releasing the autopsy report, which eventually revealed that he was shot 7 times, none from close range.
He didn't do nothing. I know him. He just wanted everything to be over.
The agent responsible had already been sued twice for police brutality, and many believe it was actually a murder.
My life after they killed my sons, broken on 2 parts.
Involvement in McCarthyism. Also known as the Red Scare, McCarthyism, named after Senator McCarthy, was an extreme repression of left-wing ideology in America and its sphere of influence. Historian Ellen Schrecker claims Hooverism would be a more fitting name after the FBI's director.
And if they put the word commie on someone, that meant that that person was an agent of the Soviets.
In the early 50s, they embarked upon a communist witch hunt, which led to many people losing their jobs because of largely false evidence. They also broke countless laws pursuing them, such as robberies and wiretaps.
We were using the same methods that Hoover accused the Communist Party of using.
The FBI stole from the National Lawyers Guild 14 times in just 4 years. Additionally, they infiltrated numerous governments in and around South America, initially to monitor Nazi activity, but they quickly became focused on communism.
Foreign counterintelligence is a top priority of the FBI.
The death of Filiberto Ojeda Rijos. After being colonized by Spain in 1508, Puerto Rico passed into American hands in 1898. As such, Puerto Rican movements for independence have landed in the FBI's crosshairs. One militant revolutionary, Filiberto Ojeda Rios, became an FBI target in 1990 after a heist. In 2005, they found his home and wandered up in broad daylight. According to the FBI, Ojeda began to shoot at the agents. Ojeda's wife and neighbor said the FBI opened fire first. An official report stated that an FBI agent had set off a flashbang grenade as a diversion, which could understandably have been interpreted as gunfire. Ojeda died of a bullet to the lung. Suppressing internal dissent. Since 1989, the Whistleblower Protection Act makes it illegal for any federal agency to retaliate against whistleblowers. However, that doesn't mean that whistleblowers are actually safe in practice. FBI agent Jane Turner reported the agency's mishandling of child abuse cases and theft of items from Ground Zero after 9/11. This got her fired, but thankfully she took it to court and heroically won after a years-long fight.
So when I had to blow the whistle, it was very, very difficult.
In 2008, veteran FBI agent Terry Albury, the only black field agent in the Minneapolis office, leaked information about racial bias and harassment. He ended up sentenced to 4 years in prison, and these are far from isolated cases. Puerto Rican independence. The FBI has a long history of interfering in Puerto Rican independence movements, particularly as part of COINTELPRO, a covert and illegal counterintelligence program that targeted political dissidents in the 1950s and 60s. Unsurprisingly, Hoover was the driving force behind these efforts. The Carpetas program tracked 75,000 Puerto Ricans using FBI surveillance and informants. Pedro Albizu Campos, leader of the independence movement, had a 4,700-page file. He was jailed and allegedly subjected to radiation experiments. This wasn't law enforcement. It was about controlling Puerto Rico and crushing dissent. Failing to protect Malcolm X. In 1965, civil rights activist Malcolm X
The FBI definitely killed Malcolm X.
3 members of the religious organization Nation of Islam were convicted of the killing. But in 2021, 2 were exonerated. So what really happened? Some have suspected FBI involvement.
Hell yeah.
FBI and the New York City Police had Malcolm X under
Kash
surveillance.
Patel is going to kill so many goddamn Americans.
They were surveilling Malcolm X and received a tip from an informant about the assassination. Meanwhile, the NYPD did a poor job of securing the crime scene. At the least,
No, the NYPD? No, never. I watch Law and Order. They solve all the crimes.
Probably had something to do with it.
In 2024, Malcolm X's family filed a $100 million lawsuit against the FBI, CIA, and NYPD, alleging a cover-up.
Fuck the FBI.
That the city was trying to protect.
Wounded Knee Operation. In 1973, 200 Oglala Lakota and American Indian Movement followers occupied Wounded Knee in South Dakota for 71 days, protesting the corruption of tribal President Richard Wilson.
The protesters called for a federal investigation of corruption on reservations in South Dakota.
Isn't there like another
FBI had
thing
already
just
been
like that
targeting
going
the
on
American
right
Indian
now?
Movement through COINTELPRO. Even so, given that this was also the site of the infamous Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890, you might assume that the government would feel reluctant to exercise a heavy hand.
They were shooting machine gun fire at us, tracers coming at us at nighttime, just like a war zone.
Well, FBI agents and the United States Marshal Service laid siege to the town, and in the ensuing confrontation, 2 Native Americans were killed and over a dozen other people wounded.
The White House will not negotiate while guns are pointed at federal officials in Wounded Knee.
Murdering Black Panthers. The Black Panther Party rose to prominence in the 1960s as part of the Black Power movement.
The FBI is now watching the Panthers' every move.
FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover called them, quote, the greatest threat to internal security of the country. In 1969, the FBI orchestrated a raid on the Chicago apartment of 21-year-old Fred Hampton, chairman of the Illinois Black Panthers.
Black people need some peace. White people need some peace. If we are going to have to fight, we're going to have to struggle.
In the early hours of December 4th, Hampton, who had been drugged, was asleep with his fiancée.
You know you're in a bad situation when when you've got a Hotline Miami map is going to be your next layout. Goddamn.
Dragged out of the room as police shot and killed Hampton. Police fired over 100 shots, while only 1 bullet came from the Panthers, triggered by a death convulsion after Hampton's comrade was gunned down.
Based on film, that all the bullets coming into that apartment came from one direction, and that was from the police side.
Larry Nasser, Between 1996 and 2014,
Fucking animal.
many members of the U.S. women's national gymnastics team fell victim to Larry Nassar in the...
When Larry Nassar was convicted, he like gave like a testimonial where he was like, I mean, it wasn't even that bad of a thing I did. And it's like, what do you feel like? Put him in jail more. Jail him twice. Like, put him in a jail, and then throw that jail in the ocean. God, he's a monster.
The largest sexual abuse
Gives Jerry
scandal in
Sandusky a
American
run for
sports
his money.
history.
This guy is despicable. This guy is disgusting.
Nassar, the team doctor, exploited his position to assault more than 260 women, many of them gymnasts. Olympic gold medalist Michaela Maroney reported it to the FBI, but said the agents ignored her claims and falsified her statements.
Not only did the FBI not report my abuse, but when they eventually documented my report 17 months later, they made entirely false claims about what I said.
Nassar was convicted in 2017 and sentenced
You
to
cannot
60
trust
years
law
in federal
enforcement.
prison.
They
If he
are
survives,
tools to protect
he will serve
capital,
2
not you.
additional sentences
And that
in
sucks.
Michigan, both with a minimum of 40 years.
I just signed your death warrant.
Richard Jewell. In the summer of 1996,
I don't know about this one.
Centennial Olympic Park in Atlanta, Georgia, was the site of a terrorist attack. A pipe bomb exploded, but security guard Richard Jewell had spotted the suspicious bag early and helped evacuate.
Oh,
the
yeah.
area,
There was that movie
saving
about him.
lives. Despite his heroism, the FBI, struggling to find a culprit, focused on Jewell as their prime suspect.
Television cameras surrounded Jewell's apartment as federal agents searched for evidence.
Though he was never charged, the media vilified him, destroying his reputation.
Still tailed by FBI agents and unable to get a job, his
Fuck
only
the
source of
FBI.
income is now a telephone hotline.
2 years later, the real bomber Eric Rudolph was caught, but by then the damage was done. The agents responsible faced little consequences and remained employed by the FBI.
For 88.
Sorry, real quick. So, yeah, the FBI also, like, we don't see as much about them with propaganda, but it's out there, and particularly, and I hate to say it because I love the fucking show, the X-Files is very FBI propaganda. It's like, it's Mulder and Scully trying to figure out mysteries and stop drug busts. And it's like, nah, they're usually just, like, jailing and killing political dissidents and assassinating, like, leftist leaders. Like, I don't... Like, they're bad. Them bad.
Days, I lived a nightmare. For 88 days, my mother lived a nightmare too.
That sucks.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. The Waco Massacre. The Branch Davidians were a Christian
That
cult
wasn't on the
at
first
Mount
list?
Carmel compound
Jeez.
near Waco, Texas. In 1993, the U.S. government launched a siege following a failed ATF raid, which had been compromised when the Davidians were alerted in advance.
The ATF learned from an undercover agent that Koresh knew they were coming. They didn't turn back.
The standoff lasted 51 days, culminating in an FBI-led assault with tear gas.
I think the Waco show is worth watching. I've watched it. It's
Shortly after, a fire consumed
it's worth
the
watching.
compound, killing at least 76 people, including 20 to 28 children. The fire's cause remains disputed.
I
Some
think whether you
believe it
like the show or
resulted from
not
the tear
is
gas's
entirely up to you.
flammability
I
and
didn't
gunfire,
hate it.
while the government claims
And again,
that
I think
the
it's worth
Davidians
watching.
said it themselves. The FBI denies firing live rounds that day. The siege deeply influenced extremist Timothy McVeigh, who carried out the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing in retaliation.
Jesus.
It was an act of cowardice, and it was evil.
Were there any more egregious crimes
And
we
again,
forgot
like-
to include? Leave them in the comments.
All
We
this...
know that these FBI agents have committed an obvious crime.
Oh, shit. Ooh, this is kind of interesting. Anything with Ocean Kate, I think is hilarious. God, if we were living in the Kamala timeline, I would be milking that so hard. Like a dead billionaire on the ocean floor. Fuck yeah, daddy, give me more. 1 out of 4,000. Let's get the rest. Ooh, Zora Mamdani. Real quick, Jeb, this is for you and anyone else that does or will watch it. On my YouTube channel, while I'm trying to upload these streams, barring when like last time when the streams get effed up, I've also made public playlists of like political stuff that I go through and I thumb through. I made that playlist public, the gaming playlist public. Just a good avenue for people to like explore gaming and politics. I might make more lists later, but right now, like, those are the big ones. Why was I saying that? Yeah, because I would love to watch this sort of Madani video. We're not going to watch it tonight. I think I'm going to watch like 2 more videos. And I'm going to call it at 11. But yeah, I got that politics list on my profile public for anyone looking to like stay in touch with what's going on. And I'm trying to build a pseudo historical politics playlist, because like I'm watching these videos for like these videos on YouTube for like 5 years now, maybe 6, and like it's interesting to see like stuff that came out 5 or 6 years ago and how like drastically different it is from current standards and settings. It's an interesting comparison. Like I can't think of a good one off the top of my head, but like how people, like how there was so much more praise for Elon like 6 years ago, and now it's just like put him on a stake. I kind of want to watch this one, but let's see. God. Let's get some majority report. I miss Sam.
President Donald Trump held his first official cabinet meeting of his second term. Elon Musk joined in his dark MAGA outfit. I mean,
dark
can we just put
MAGA.
Up this frame here?
I'm the darkest of MAGA.
Do you think this was like a specific choice that all the other cabinet members, some of them who haven't been confirmed but are just sitting there anyway, by the way, they're not confirmed yet. Elon's,
Can they be there?
Standing as a power play. I don't know what's up. Maybe he had a bit of a jittery leg, lots of energy. Anyway, Trump asked his buddy Elon to address the meeting first. He kicked it off. He's wearing a T-shirt, says tech support there. As they're,
I will smile warmly when Tesla is a penny stock.
Of the federal government code that doesn't necessarily mean that you're cutting it, but this is like bringing the move fast, break things tech philosophy to the federal government.
So fucking dangerous.
A reporter here asks Elon Musk about at the meeting about if any of the members of the seated cabinet next to him disapprove of Doge, and watch all of these sycophants fall in line, led by Howard Lutnick, who I'll tell you about in just a second.
President Trump put out a Truth Social today saying that everybody in the cabinet was happy with you. I just wondered if you had heard otherwise, and if you had heard anything about members of the cabinet who weren't happy with the way things were going, and if so, what are you doing to address those any dissatisfaction?
Elon, let the cabinet speak just for a second. Anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, we'll throw him out of here.
All right, pause it. Okay, let's go back 10 seconds. So Trump then prompts the whole cabinet meeting.
How can you be a multimillionaire and still so
cucked? Does anybody have a
cucked?
problem with this? Speak now or forever hold your peace. He looks around the room, and you better not. And then he looks at Howard Lutnick, and Lutnick starts the applause, like the little toady that he is.
Clapping like a seal. Toadie's good. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I have some more to say on Lutnick, but I want to.
Yeah, but let's. I just want people to pay attention to Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who's next to next to Hegseth, who's next to Trump.
Anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, we'll throw him out of here.
Trump looks at him. Like
Fucking seals. Fucking dolphins.
I have a lot of respect for Elon and that he's doing this, and some disagree a little bit, but I will tell you, for the most part, I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled. So go ahead, Elon.
So thrilled.
And President Trump has put together, I think, the best cabinet ever. literally. So
Those are the whitest people in the world.
This is an incredible group of people.
Thank God.
I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled.
Look at Rubio just playing with his fingers. He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Great, thank you. So Howard Lutnick, who is now the Secretary of Commerce, the one who kicked off the applause for Elon, is Elon Musk's buddy. Oh my gosh, Comrade Daniel writes in, more like nut lick, am I right?
Yes, you are right. Very correct, accurate assessment.
Lutnick is heavily involved in crypto. His firm Cantor Fitzgerald holds about $600 million worth of crypto, and they are developing a multi-billion-dollar crypto lending project.
I hope his firm crashes.
Coincidentally, November 2024. Also in those November 2024 disclosures, it was revealed that Cantor Fitzgerald and Lutnick as the CEO, although has he even stepped down? Has he even stepped down as CEO? Because
they're not caring at all about conflicts of interest. It is an openly corrupt administration, and it needs to be said, that's how you know they won't give up power in 4 years, because they don't want to go to jail, and it's easier just when you're already breaking the law, it's let's just take over the country, and if they don't like it, we'll go to New Zealand or some shit, somewhere where there's no extradition or some crap.
I went to their website yesterday, and he's still up as CEO. I mean, he's been the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald since the 90s. Not that they've been flouting all of these ethics. Sorry.
Bitcoin is down 22,000 over the last month. I love it.
Still obviously invested.
I love it. Crash.
Cantor Fitzgerald also, in their November disclosures, it was found that they hold around 78 million shares valued at $80 million in a company called Satellogic. Satellogic is in the commercial space industry. And by the way, the Department of Commerce is the agency that's supposed to set space commerce policy, as well as cryptocurrency policy, which is the directive that Biden gave to the Department of Commerce in 2022. So Lutnick has massive holdings in satellite and space commercial technology and in cryptocurrency, and kicks off the applause about Elon Musk's role in the federal government. Isn't that poetic?
He's also CEO of Rumble, and Glenn Greenwald, Rumble, who's given his sort of name.
See, I'll never stream on Rumble. I'll tell you that. Fuck those guys. Those Nazi fucks.
Lutnick is himself Jewish whenever people accuse this administration of anti-Semitism. Of course, Elon Musk did a Sig Heil. Yeah. There's Howard Lutnick clapping for the guy there. Absolute nut licker.
A double. He hit him with the combo. He's like, choo-choo-choo. And it's like, dude, you Nazi. I don't know if I said this. My take on Elon being a Nazi. Elon is a Nazi now. But he became a Nazi, ironically. And so he doesn't think he's a Nazi, but he is a Nazi. Kind of like in the other guys, Mark Wahlberg's character. Was really good at interpretive dance and art criticisms and all sorts of poofy stuff. And his ex-girlfriend is like, Terry, where did you learn all this? Oh, I learned how to interpretive dance to make fun of the poof down the street. And it's like what? But now you're really good at interpretive dance. That's how Elon became a Nazi. He cosplayed as one so much that he is just a Nazi now. Getting them swastikas, kids.
Ending the Nazi salute. We're at this point right now where, we've said this before, the modern Nazi, the modern far-right figure, is also a Zionist. So that includes, it's basically all of the Christian Zionists in this country, but also some Jewish Zionists as well.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
And that is,
or just craven businessmen. I honestly don't know what Lutnick's position on Israel is, but I will say I suspect that Russell Brand is really shy about criticizing Israel. Probably comes from the top of the company, but that's just a suspicion.
That's funny.
Oh, Jeb, that's you in the Discord, right? Yeah, that's you. Okay.
Oh, the meritocracy.
Right.
But yeah, no, that one's great.
Right.
That's a good one.
They're in their 20s, are they not?
Exactly. So Brandon Lutnick will be chairman, and his older brother Kyle is executive vice chairman. But it says Lutnick's sons, both in their 20s, will oversee the
Love meritocracy. And also, I'm blocked by Glenn Greenwald, so if he said anything about Elon's salute, I would be interested in being informed by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably some free speech argument.
I'm not a.
Here at
I
the
just
same
saw Meg.
press conference, Trump is asked by a reporter about his view on the role of his cabinet secretaries and if they have any independence. This was his answer to that question.
No.
Part of your mission has been to restore executive control over the executive branch. Is it your view of your authority that you have the power to call up any one of or all of the people seated at this table and issue orders that they're bound to follow?
Oh, yeah, they'll follow the orders, yes. They will.
They'll goose step to the best of their ability.
Well, let's see. Let me think. Oh, yeah. She'll have an exception. Of course, no exceptions.
Is he pointing to Pam Bondi?
Yeah, I can't.
He's pointing to Pam Bondi, I think, although it doesn't seem like that's the case. People need to start to think about the gutting of the administrative state in these terms. Trump is trying to make it easier to be authoritarian. And that's what going after the federal workforce is about.
Yep.
The more they get rid of the people who have designated their life to making the American public healthier or safer when they're flying, or not getting scammed by financial companies, the people who have made that their career and have foregone much more lucrative opportunities, frankly, in private industry. People who are public servants.
You can make a lot of money being a bastard. Look at Dave Rubin.
Who is the anti-public servant elected to
Ben
the
Shapiro.
highest office in this country, who is now
Steven
openly
Crowder.
discussing selling citizenship in the supposed land of the free to the highest bidder with gold citizenship cards worth $5 million a clip or something like that to bring over all these capitalists to this country. He is the privatization president. Public servants are of the public. And so their very existence within our agencies is a threat to his agenda of authoritarianism and of mass privatization. And that is why they're gutting the administrative state. That was the stated purpose of Project 2025, or maybe not stated, but that's what it's about. So when you hear all this talk about unelected career bureaucrats, no, it's, the NLRB person who Sam interviewed who got her master's and thought she would work on behalf of labor interests for the federal government for the rest of her life and was, making middle income, maybe upper middle class income, or someone who works at the EPA to test if...
Yeah, my family member, they busted their ass for this job. It was like a 10-year goal, and now they're losing it for no fucking reason. It's abhorrent. It's inhumane. And if for anyone watching this, if you're someone that's oh, I don't know any Fed people suffering, that's not real. And it's then you don't have enough friends. I don't know what to tell you. They want to get rid of 1 million workers at a minimum. 1 million is what Russell Vought is outlining in his recent, he's killing entire departments under other departments so that they're just fig leaves in name only that they still exist. So he's killing all these departments without any regard for what they do, what their purpose is, how they finding people other positions, just unemploying 1 million Americans. This is, I don't know if we watched the video, but I think the biggest comparisons were Sears and some other place going out of business 1-2 decades ago, and they dropped 50, 60,000 employees into the job market. That sucks. This is a significant 1 million Americans is 1/3% of the American population, but of the working population, that's drastic. That's 5% of the workforce, something insane like that. You can't do that. Now these people are gonna be struggling for jobs. I mentioned the velocity of a dollar earlier, where if you have money, you spend money, it goes through the economy. You pay, there's an episode of Bluey about it. That's great. You have $5, you pay for a meal, it goes to that person. They spend it to pay for the food, to make the next meal. That's how the economy is supposed to work. Money is not supposed to be the thing that's valued. It's the things you get from it, the services and the goods. And when you kill the opportunity for 1 million Americans to participate in the economy, you're artificially depressing it. needlessly in this case. So let's keep going.
There's lead in water pipes in Oklahoma or something like
Forest
that.
rangers.
I mean, for people who work for our national parks, who love the outdoors and love the wildlife in this country. These are the people that Trump is saying are a threat to you. As the richest man on earth stands beside him and his commerce secretary gleefully claps about how rich they're all going to get together. I mean, is this as naked as I'm saying, like out loud? Is this coming across to people? Because it's as clear as day.
And, you know, I mean, this is sort of a spectacle to sort of reassert Doge authority, because it did face a bit of a hiccup over the weekend when Elon tried to do that email saying, get in touch, and particularly Kash Patel and maybe another cabinet member was like, we actually...
it was Kash and Tulsi Gabbard
telling me that we actually have our own procedures for this sort of thing, and we'll be following those. So don't expect a response on that email, which is like, that's an important thing, and it's a shame that Kash Patel is leading it.
Don't you mean the wizard in Donald Trump's cabinet? There he is, the wizard.
It sounds like he's plotting against the king a little bit.
Oh, man. Look at this is
also Elon's not in that. I think we need a new update.
It's not. He's not in that, but Kash is. This is his artistic rendering of himself. Just for anybody watching on the internet, it just.
He's crazy.
I'm so glad that he's heading our top federal law enforcement agency. Oh my goodness.
All we have to do is. Okay, we don't need to hear about Steve Bannon talking about flooding the zone. Let's. Couple more videos. I'm going to call it at 11. I'm sorry. I'm getting tired, and I got some crap I got to do before I pass out. There was a video I saw a minute ago that I really wanted to watch. Oh, we're going to watch 10 worst decisions of the last decade. I do really want to watch that. Oh, I already had it up. We got it up again.
It's time to finish the job.
God. I guess this is political then. Jackass. You didn't barely started the job.
Of judgment between 2015 and now.
I'm really worried.
Titan submersible expedition. In June 2023, the submersible Titan imploded in the North Atlantic Ocean during an
Like if I wasn't focused so hard on politics and like not getting rat fucked by the Trump administration, like, this is the kind of shit, God, I listened to these last year when they were having the hearings and everything, and, like, they're going to say his name, I'm blanking on his name, but the owner of this thing, like, the Elon of submarines, complete fucking idiot, and was gambling with his fate for so long. It's amazing he got away with it as long as he did, but his death was completely expected.
sea expedition to view the wreckage of the Titanic, killing all 5 on board.
Somewhere along the journey,
The only one I feel bad for is the kid. Like, the kid, I feel really bad for that kid. Like, he did not deserve that. Every other person in that sub, though, fuck him, including his dad. But that kid, no, I feel really bad for that kid.
Fitness for deep sea expeditions as far back as 2018, but ultimately ignored.
That same year,
That's the Cyclops. That's
David Lockridge was fired and sued.
And David Lockridge is a hero. Like he fought so hard to whistleblow on
as the chief pilot did. They were not
Hey, look, 60 Minutes Australia.
They were silenced.
Are they good? Are they Jeff, are they a good watch regularly?
Debris was discovered days later. What exactly occurred to cause the implosion is unclear. But what is clear is that 5 lives could have been saved if proper safety precautions had been taken.
Well, there must have been something wrong.
All I care about is the kid. The kid I feel bad for.
Well, we don't know exactly what happened. It could have been a number of different things that caused the implosion.
Fire Festival. In 2017,
I'll put them on my regular watch. I'm thinking about going back into the BBC too. Cuz like US media, MSNBC is just racist now. Like not that I ever watched MSNBC, but CNN's been done. I've been done with CNN since the Trump town hall. MSNBC I'm not even going to entertain. And Fox is just pretty much cancer. Oh, Fire Festival 2, that's happening. That's a thing. $1 million tickets. It's like, yeah, give Billy McFarland your money.
You see the supermodels on jet skis, and you're thinking, like,
wow, I really want to be there.
Influencers like Kendall Jenner promoted the festival on social media. However, poor organization and budget issues led to numerous acts withdrawing. When attendees arrived on the festival grounds, they were greeted by disaster relief tents and cheese sandwiches.
So I tweet out, look at this. Do you see these lockers? Do you see the luxury food court?
That's the other thing. So, God, the guy, I'm really gonna, Billy McFarland. Billy McFarland still has like massive debts owed for what he did here. And it's like, guys, don't give him $1 million a ticket for a Fire Festival too, because that money's not even going to the festival. It's going to paying off this debt.
Sandwich.
McFarland pleaded guilty to wire fraud and received a 6-year prison sentence.
It's a shame because Billy, by all accounts, is a creative person, but his obsession with get rich quick nonsense. Like,
what were you indicted for? I'm not going to comment on any ongoing criminal proceedings.
Hillary Clinton not campaigning.
He was convicted.
Throughout the 2016 U.S. presidential election, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was the odds-on favorite against her opponent, former host of The Apprentice, Donald Trump.
When I was in the Senate, I had a number of trade deals that came before me, and I held them all to the same test. Will they create jobs?
I watched all these debates when they happened, and like he was just talking crazy the whole time, but apparently a bunch of people loved it and thought it was great enough to vote for him. But like I was just watching him, like he's telling you to his face he's fucking nuts and not stable. Like how could you vote for this? And people just again fucking loved it.
America? Will they raise incomes in America? And are they good for our national security?
After her loss, there was much speculation as to why. While there are numerous potential factors to consider, one clear blunder was Clinton's failure to campaign in Wisconsin, part of the blue wall of Midwestern states key to electoral.
She fucked it up.
Hillary Clinton hasn't been in the Badger State since March, and if she doesn't come back, it will be historic.
That apparently is the first time this has happened since 1972, when Richard Nixon decided not to visit the state during his re-election campaign.
This wasn't the only previously blue state that Trump had flipped, but it did speak to an overconfidence among Clinton and the Democratic establishment that turned...
Dems think you owe them their votes, and they need to, like, any Dem that acts with that in mind, with that kind of show, that, like, again, like, that's a good part of why Kamala lost, is that they just acted like, yeah, like, Trump's worse, you owe me your vote, just do the right thing, you dumb donkey, vote for me. And it's like, no, earn their votes. Stop killing Palestinian kids. Why is it so hard? Why would you lose an election to enable a genocide? Like, fuck you guys. God damn it.
A seemingly surefire victory into a shocking defeat.
There were all kinds of factors.
Running George Santos. People running for public office not being completely truthful is nothing new, but dishonesty to the extent of George Santos is truly mind-boggling.
I hope I can earn your vote on November 8th.
Weeks after his victory to New York's
fucking
third
Uncle Fester-looking motherfucker.
Midterm elections, it was revealed that numerous aspects of Santos's backstory had been completely fabricated. Among these falsehoods were his having
Hey, 5 viewers, welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe, please.
And his mother worked
please.
in the World Trade Center and surviving the September 11th attacks.
I did a
She was in the South Tower, and she made it out.
Yeah, fuck George
She got caught up
Santos,
in
fucking
the
piece of
accident. My mom
shit.
fought cancer till her death.
But we now know that his mother was not in New York and was not even in this country during 9/11.
These revelations immediately made him a pariah in Congress, and he became the 6th representative and first Republican in U.S. history to be expelled.
Like, how bad you gotta be to not be, like, in the Republican Party? Like, holy shit.
As far as he did.
I'm George Santos, and I approve this message.
FTX. Cryptocurrency has been a
Okay,
massive source.
real quick. FTX. Sam Bankman-Fried. I've talked about this on Blue Sky. I'm bringing it up here. If he had lasted another year or so, he would be in charge of the SEC right now. Not only that, so what he was doing was wildly illegal. And in fact, what happened to him is what should have happened to all the financiers that did 08. But it only happened to him. He got 25 years in prison, which he deserves. He absolutely deserves. But the way he did his fraud, so they didn't keep solid accounting books. They were just transferring stuff back and forth however they wanted, and basically using like the FTX funds as their own personal piggy bank. Now, FTX was its own token. Sam held a bunch of money in like Bitcoin, like a lot of it. And if you look at the Bitcoin trends, essentially what happened is, since his arrest, the Bitcoin value increased massively. So the people recovering the funds were able to like sell, and it wasn't just crypto. It was, Bitcoin. It was other crypto services. They were able to sell off those assets, and allegedly, what they said like 6 months ago was that they were able to remediate all of the losses incurred by Sam Bankman and FTX, and include like interest to the people that got frauded by him. That's a rare positive outcome that just does not happen. So it's good that it happened, and effectively, like, compared to like what's going on right now, he's actually like a saint. Which is why, again, it's funny, like, instead of holding out like another year, he could be like a big part of the Trump admin. And he did harm. He did no effective harm. And ultimately, justice was served by putting him in jail for 25 years. And fun fact, he now shares a jail cell with Diddy and Luigi Mangione. Whether he still does or not, I'm not 100% sure, because I think Luigi got moved again for the PA court hearings that are going on. Don't quote me on that. His attorney is popping off. She's mad, rightfully so. Like she's got some fire in her. Like, save our boy, get him out of there. Don't leave Luigi with these animals.
Of discussion over the last decade. Advocates arguing it as a source of great financial opportunities for investors, while skeptics warning of instability and lack.
Crypto is just gambling. That's something I haven't said. I don't think I've said already. Crypto is just gambling. You can make money off of it. There's no denying that. But it is a speculative asset, like, with completely unpredictable odds. Unlike even like the lottery. Like, the lottery has odds. They're just really terrible. I hate gambling. It's the antithesis of a functioning economy, and a functioning economy is part of a healthy society. So yeah, I fucking hate gambling.
Lack of regulations.
One columnist who's covered this intensively sums it up like this. If you are running a scam, you will be drawn to crypto. You are running a confidence game, and crypto offers the most efficient market for turning confidence into money.
One of the most cautionary tales came from the short-lived story of FTX, a crypto exchange co-founded by Sam Bankman-Fried in 2019.
Honestly, from our perspective, it sometimes feels like the world is just going sort of in slow motion around us, and that we're going at, about an average speed.
The company seemed poised to revolutionize the crypto industry, with numerous celebrity endorsements. However, this all came undone in 2022 when the company collapsed and Bankman-Fried was charged with multiple counts of fraud.
2019.
I have the Fortune magazine with his face on it around here somewhere. I got it like, because it came out like 4 months before he fucking crashed out. It was great.
Bankman-Fried was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison.
Another fun fact about Sam Bankman. Yeah, it's great. Oh wait, Wait, Jeb, are you talking about Sam Bankman? He was fried on drugs? I mean, he probably was. Like, they were in that weird polycule, and like they were all like sucking and fucking each other and like rolling in the money and shit. They were doing some weird shit. Yeah. Yeah. His story's fucking hilarious. But yeah, I got the Fortune magazine. Oh, and he was one of the, he's one of Fortune's 30 billionaires under 30 or whatever. And like, that list is like a constant source of like fraudsters and scam artists. Like Elizabeth Holmes was on there. At least once every 3 or 4 months, like a new one pops up. Like, it turns out they were actually like a massive con artist and didn't really have any original ideas, and were never going to be a benefit to society at all. And it's like this list is just like a watch out for these people list. It's fucking great.
Honestly, if I look back on myself, I think I got a little...
I don't know why I was confused by what you said, man. I'm sorry. I'm getting tired. Like, this and then maybe one more video. And yeah, RGB fucked us. She absolutely fucked us. Shameful.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter the duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
When you say perverse drug types, do you mean like...
However, her legacy
Hold
would
on.
be in a much better place.
Again, I'm running slow right now. These drugs, not anti-drugs. Oh, you mean like the ones that like shoot heroin between their toes type deal? I've met a couple. I know one guy that's very adept at recreational drug use. I mean, like, not addicted to anything, can get his hands on anything, does it whenever he wants, but ultimately, like, again, there's no, like, he's not addicted. It's very odd. It's impressive. Random story. I once met up with a friend of mine at my old house that I used to rent, like, 10 years ago. We were getting dinner and we went out that night. He brought a friend of his with him, and he, like, my bro that I went out with, he's very Christian conservative, but ultimately, like, able to, like, handle, like, non-Christian interactions. But the friend he... Exactly. And I mean, like, yeah. But my bro brought, one of his friends, like, Christian-oriented friends with him. And somehow the topic of, like, marijuana came up, and I was like, yeah, you know, I smoke a blunt or a bowl here and there, like, once in a while, and, you know. And he was shocked. He was like, but he was looking at me like, why aren't you like the Dare ads showed where, it wasn't even Dare. Dare went after exclusively, like, tobacco, where they did a good job. They appeared to have, like, killed cigarettes. You don't see cigarettes anymore. But, no, he was looking at me like, I didn't realize I was sitting next to a drug addict. And he's like, so you're addicted to marijuana? I was like, no, I like it. I'll have it like once in a while. It's kind of expensive. Like, I'm making like just above minimum wage, so I can't really dump money on it. It's like once in a while. I don't smoke cigarettes, so. And he was like you're not addicted to it? Don't you crave it all the time? And I'm like, no, man. Like, it's marijuana. Like, do you want to try something? Do we want to go pack a bowl right now? I can call someone and get him, like, it'll be shake, but, like, we can have some. And he was just flabbergasted by the idea that, like, people can do drugs and not become immediately addicted to drugs. It was an odd interaction. Like, again, I mentioned it earlier. We were all raised in a very Christian, like, right-leaning society up until, like, very recently, because the institutions that, like, held that delusion of right-wing nonsense together, like, it's all crumbled apart, and now it's left with, like, these burnt coffee leftovers in the bottom of the pot nut jobs, like Trump and his ilk. Let's finish up this list.
If she had stepped down during Barack Obama's second term as president, allowing him to choose her successor on the bench.
If the Republicans take the Senate in November, President Obama's ability to pick her successor will be greatly constrained. If a Republican wins the presidency in 2016, a conservative would then be taking her place.
She fucked the court.
Ginsburg had faced a wide array of health issues, including multiple cancer diagnoses. It became especially concerning during Donald Trump's presidency due to his ability to...
I remember when she died, I was like, oh, so this is it for Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade is done. And I was telling my friends, like, yeah, it's done. It's over. And they're like, you're overreacting. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, this is an accurate reaction. And they're like, you weren't political until recently, Dan. You wouldn't know. And I'm like, yeah.
In October 2022, billionaire
Okay.
Elon Musk finalized...
Now, this one, okay, I didn't think they were going to put this on the list. It was... If you go by, like, actual economics, like, again, how I mentioned an economy is supposed to work, this was one of the worst purchases of all time. He made it because he's an idiot. I don't care how much astroturfing Joe Rogan and his dumbass guests do. He didn't want to pay for it at this price. Do I think he wanted to buy it? Yes. But he wanted, like, the actual value for it. Instead, like, he made a gaffe, and they're going to talk about it here. He's like, I will pay $42.90 per share. Thinking, like, I've mentioned this before. Dougherty was, like, thinking he was, like, joking with Jack Dougherty. And Dougherty's like, no, like, you will pay that price. And Elon's like, no, wait, I was kidding. Dude, I called it the Saudi Prince, like, for a laugh. Like, no, like, what? He's like, yes, you will buy Twitter from me for that money. I will take that money for my shareholders. And Elon tried to get out of it. And Joe Rogan said recently, like, he was holding out for a better deal. And I'm like, then he should have made, like, an actual, like, good offer in the first place. He could have, okay, for perspective, he could have paid, half of what he was offering, and still, like, everyone would have been happy, because he paid essentially, like, 4 times what it was worth to Dougherty. And he could have just offered half that, gotten Twitter, had money left over, and not had all these financial obligations, which, God willing, Tesla's stock crashes soon enough. I wish to God the French and the rest of the European Union would put the selective tariffs on Tesla to kill it. Because as soon as Tesla goes under, like, all this debts and obligations, while a lot of it's getting offloaded, like, make him respond, like, he's still going to be personally obligated to a lot of stuff. And that's the only way to kill him before he implements, like, a unified payment system on X for Social Security, which will be a horrendous disaster. Like, so un-American. All right, let's keep going.
His purchase of social networking platform Twitter for a $44 billion all-cash deal.
According to some technology analysts, it simply came down to cash and a lack of other suitors to potentially take the company private or buy a majority share.
Changes soon were underway, including rebranding of the platform as X and making blue verified checkmarks available for purchase, making it easy for public figures to be impersonated.
Some users began to abuse the service and impersonate athletes, brands, celebrities, even Musk himself.
Content moderation was greatly scaled back, allowing hate speech and disinformation to run rampant. Advertisers and users both left in droves, and mass layoffs and resignations had a drastic effect on internal morale.
Just over time, these things build up, and the site will become more abusive, more extreme, and less reliable over time.
2 years after Musk's purchase, investment company Fidelity estimated that under Musk, the company's value had plunged nearly 80%.
Is that clear?
God, he's such a fucking loser.
Brexit. In June 2016,
that was a bad decision. They fucked up.
To determine whether or not the country would stay in the European Union. Supporters of the measure cited economic and immigration concerns.
Britain wants its government.
Brexit isn't as bad as us re-electing Trump, but it's like a fourth as bad. Like, it's...
To have greater power
yeah, it was pretty bad.
EU legislation, especially when it comes to its financial sector. But it also wants to cut benefits to EU migrants, find ways to reduce internal EU migration, negotiate trade deals faster.
Ultimately, the measure, put forward by then Prime Minister David Cameron, who anticipated its failure, passed with nearly
5 viewers. Glad to have you. Like and subscribe, please. I'm begging.
Was 17,410,742.
Such a
Though
bad
the negative
decision.
Effects of leaving the EU weren't immediately clear.
Jeb, fun fact,
trade, employment, and
England has a comparable population to Australia.
Expert calling it a historic debacle.
This is just so much
Actually,
more
no, wait,
difficult
wait.
to do business with the
They're
EU.
they're
There are
close.
customs checks. There are inspections, delays.
Jeb, did you know apparently you guys have more kangaroos than people in Australia?
Drop in business
Like, that's a real
between
thing?
The two blocks.
Though there's been speculation about the possibility of the UK eventually.
I was watching Mr. It was Mr. Nobody, right? The Hitman show, really good show. God, that's a good show. Watching a shit ton of that recently, and I went down an Australia rabbit hole,
There are numerous
a
reasons
kangaroo
to point
hole.
to as to why Donald Trump lost his bid for re-election in 2020, including his discouraging of mail-in voting by his supporters. But the biggest is arguably his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
Is it double?
It started in 2018 when he dismantled the pandemic response team created for.
Dude, I was lucky enough to have kangaroo once. I was surprised at how good it was. It was very lean, like, which is to be expected. You see pictures of them like jacked up. I mean, like, they're cool. Like the jacked up ones are freaky. I love the YouTube video of the guy like socking one to get his dog out of there, because they have claws on their paws, right? Like, I mean, like dew claws that are like in addition to their main claws. Or am I going crazy? Such a wild animal. You got kangaroos, wallabies. What else? Drop bears. God, I love Bluey.
And once the virus ravaged the U.S.
Ramping
and
up
the rest
my-
of the world, he downplayed its severity and ignored the advice of
It was
experts.
one time, it was a burger. There was a restaurant in our town that used to sell them. And when I saw they had it on the menu, I was like, wait, really? You guys have that? Yeah, I'll try that. I was like, this is really good. It kind of tasted, okay, it didn't taste like deer, but it had similar
They are dying. That's true.
similar
That
texture,
it is what it is.
similar.
But that doesn't mean we aren't doing
Kangaroo was
everything we can. It's
the kangaroo burger was as good as some of the salted venison I've had, if that makes sense. I'm not doing a good food comparison right now.
Ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on
Like as pets, or like you like them as pets, or
Joe
I just saw that part.
re-election bid, even before he
Oh
announced
yeah,
his bid
that was
for
the worst
re-election,
decision in the
there were
last
calls for
decade.
him
Such a
to not
fucking
seek a
failure.
second term.
The latest NBC News poll shows 70% of Americans believe that
Thank you.
presidents
Okay,
should
at least
not run
awesome.
for a second term, including
It's like it's an animal. Like yeah, it's an animal you don't want to eat that often, but like when you do, you're like, this is pretty good. This is really solid. Like yeah.
Between his advanced age and low poll numbers, a likely rematch with former President Donald Trump seemed poor.
I don't know if we talked about it. So yeah, again, the aides knew in 21 that he was not capable for re-election. Everyone kind of knew that. Like we elected him to get rid of this guy. We hated him more. We didn't love Joe. Nobody loved Joe. They didn't do good in the midterms that following year because how much they loved Joe. They did it how much they hated the Supreme Court for getting rid of abortion. Like Americans vote out of hate far more than they vote out of likability because they don't trust politicians. They've been taught from the get-go they're not going to do anything to help them, which is why that's the only path forward for the Dems is like, yeah, like universal health care, like make it happen. No more compromises. No more compromising with this. Look at this fucking wilted testicle. God damn it. Old bastards. They don't know anything. Addicted to social media and Ronald Reagan 2 diet. Idiots.
Poised to result in a humiliating defeat. These concerns only became more apparent after a debate between Biden and Trump in June 2024 that was widely regarded as disastrous.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
With the election just months away, calls for Biden to step aside day by the day.
There are new developments in the Democratic Party's concerns over President Biden's capability to win the election. And now former Speaker Nancy Pelosi has confronted Biden.
He ultimately did withdraw from the race in July, supporting his VP Kamala Harris as the party's nominee.
Selecting Kamala.
Should have just went as far left as possible. Should have been like, yeah, we're gonna trans the frogs and we're gonna gayify healthcare and we're gonna house the homeless in McMansions. Like, should have just gone as far left as possible. Instead, she's like, what if I do exactly what the dementia patient was gonna do?
Here in the audience.
But I do it with a young black twist. And it's like, no, give them health care. What are you fucking talking about? Why did you kick Hassan out of the DNC? What the fuck's going on? God. One more video. I want to see whatever this new Elon scandal they're crowing about is. What Brian Tyler Cohen was going on about today. Yeah, I'll subscribe to Brian.
Some breaking news here that even Elon
All right,
Musk's
after this, it's it
defenders
for
might
tonight.
argue.
I'm burnt.
Within the federal government, the FAA had inked a $2.4 billion contract to overhaul a communication system that serves as the backbone of the nation's
Oh, this is
air
about the
traffic
Verizon thing.
Well, turns out that the administration is now looking to cancel that contract with Verizon and re-award it to a different company.
Like,
which
it's
so
just
happens to be
wheeling
called
and dealing.
SpaceX, which is owned by Elon Musk. And for those who are new to politics, that's the guy who said this.
Well,
He won't be involved.
Yeah, I'll recuse myself if it is.
Like, okay, it's like, yeah, he can step away, but he can still just do the corruption for him. Like, each of them are patting each other's pockets with the fucking treasury. Although they're both going to go to Fort Knox together, holding hands, skipping and singing while they, like, just walk out with gold bars. Like, oh, yeah, there was no gold in there. And, like, they're slowly moving with coats filled to the brim with gold bars and nuggets and everything. Fucking idiot, Nazi.
He won't be involved. I mean, I wouldn't want that, and he won't want it.
See, Elon would hate that. He recoils at the thought of a conflict. He's merely there to be a patriot who roots out government abuse.
God,
Like
crypto is
government
crashing. I love it.
contractors self-deal to the tune of billions of dollars, to name an arbitrary example. Even Trump himself assured us that this kind of thing couldn't possibly happen.
So you get one of these, you're a streamer. As soon as you get one of these, you just start streaming. It's wild.
You said that if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
You get one of these, you start jerking it off on stage.
Now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing.
I'm glad you're having
if
fun,
there
Jeff.
is, and he told me before I told him.
For real, like,
obviously,
no, I
will
want this to
not
be a
let
good time
there be
in
any
these
conflict of interest.
dark
He's done an
times.
amazing job. They've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock.
Fuck Sean
And,
Hannity.
He's on, and I'm on, and we talk about a lot of different things. And any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that.
Not Donald Trump lying too. If these two beacons of truth and honesty and integrity can't be trusted, who do we have left? And of course, the reality is that Elon nor Trump care about conflicts of interest. And beyond their tepid and frankly transparent denials, none of their actions actually match their words. Elon took to Twitter writing, "To be clear here, the Verizon communication system to air traffic control is breaking down very rapidly. The FAA says single-digit months."
He's lost, okay, his credibility has been non-existent since 2018 when he called a rescue diver a pedophile for no reason. Like, and he's just gotten, like, you cannot trust any, like, I don't trust him. He's just saying stuff. He was talking about how, like, people, like, pointing out the identities of the Doge team are criminals. And it's like, no, that's public service. Oh, FYI, for those who didn't know, yes, the staffer that bragged about being a racist and hated Indian people and was in eugenics, who got fired for all of 5 minutes, he got rehired. He is back doing what he was doing. Like, he's back in that position because there are no standards anymore. Like that. Well, I mean, who's shocked? You got a whole bunch of alcoholic Nazi rapists running the country now. Jesus fuck.
The catastrophic failure, putting air traveler safety at serious risk. The Starlink terminals.
Oh, Jeb, I just saw that note in the Discord. That's
on an emergency
did you just put that in there?
Air traffic control connectivity.
You know what? I don't know why I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't put a politics section in there. Yeah.
In business, in retail, it's generally a product that you might give away for free, like fries at a restaurant, knowing full well that the cost will be offset by the total purchase that a customer makes. Elon ingratiating Starlink terminals at quote no cost to the taxpayer is the crumb that he is throwing us while he works behind the scenes to score a multi-billion-dollar contract that had
Let's start. So here, hold on to that. Let's start with politics
patriotic
as like a blanket.
Everything
and I don't
and
know if I can create links groups underneath it.
And by the way, as far as
if not, then we'll do separate groups for that. I think like these are my general like. I think these are good starting points. Like, let's get a crowd going. Let's not overwhelm. I feel like this is a really good start off. But that's like this is a good. Your suggestions are good. Hold on to those. It's a good start.
And previously ordered over $630,000 in civil penalties against SpaceX. Although, rest assured now, those investigations will now go away and those fines will be eliminated. But again, we were promised
praise him. Praise Elon.
What choice do we have but to believe Elon Musk? And the FAA is only the tip of the iceberg. I've gone through this list before, so I apologize if you've heard it already, but it is 100% worth repeating. At USAID, which was the first target of Doge, the Inspector General had already initiated a probe into Starlink satellite terminals in the Russia-Ukraine war. That Inspector General was then fired, and the investigation was shut down. That benefits Elon. Or how about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, another early Elon target? Consumers have submitted over 300 complaints about Tesla to the CFPB. And so Trump fired the CFPB director, and he installed Project 2025 architect Russ Vought as the Bureau's acting director. Musk himself tweeted, "Delete CFPB" less than a week after the agency finalized a rule that would put his planned collaboration with Visa to offer a real-time payment system on the platform into the agency's crosshairs. In fact, here's Elizabeth Warren drawing that link quite clearly.
Elon Musk, as you know, he bought Twitter, and he's just lost money hand over fist on that investment. So he's had a better idea, better from his perspective, and that is he's going to do X money. And the idea here is he's going to be everything on the financial side and social side for everybody in the country, maybe around the world. if he gets the chance. There's just one bump in the way, and that's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's not that they say no. You can go ahead and build a new tech platform.
So I love Elizabeth Warren. She's like Diet Bernie. The CFPB was a great thing. It is a great thing technically, but was an amazing thing. Again, I came from retail finance a long time ago when this was like really kicking off. And the CFPB did a lot of basic stuff that got away from like, it did a lot of basic stuff and did a lot of massive stuff. And it's things like you don't think are like that big of a deal. Like, oh, everyone just does this. They know to do that. But like the things banks were, and frankly are, and are going to get away with. Fraud is an insidious thing. It's never just like a conspiracy to steal money. Sometimes it's just you're cutting corners. Like you're trying to hit sales quotas and you fudge the numbers a little bit, a smudge here, a smudge there. And it builds up until finally like whatever the crystal ball was that you're holding, you can't see through it. It's covered in smudges. The CFPB was the wipe for that thing. It cleaned it all up and out. Like, again, I worked like with retail banking. One of the things that banks had to do, they legally had to be in compliance, like to not face massive fines, penalties, and frankly, criminal prosecutions was commercial remediation. So banks would have to go through and make sure that they had all essential, pertinent, and accurate customer files and information for all their customers and all the accounts they had. And every bank had to pull every file they had and make sure that they had everything up to date, accurate, it was showing recently updated, all of that. And if they didn't have it to stay compliant, they would have to close down accounts, mail customers funds. It was very rare that would happen because the banks put such a hard effort to remediate those files that they pretty much all got it together. And I'll say this, the institution that I worked for was much more fiscally conservative. Like they didn't gamble. It's been a long time since I worked there. I don't know what their policies are now, but they had a brush in years prior to my hire with several other controversies that they themselves their policies weren't that bad that caused the fraud. There were bad actors, but having that had happened, they were like, no, this will never happen again. Like we're already going to be much more conservative than what the market calls for. But when the remediation came down, they followed up and doubled on that and got it better, fixed it. And again, with what the CFPB has done since I've left the finance business, for people, like, it's extraordinary. It's one of the few financial, like, one thing that a lot of people talk about when it comes to the removal of the CFPB, it's like, why would you get rid of an organization that got Americans $21 billion back for like only $700 million a year? And it's like, that's good, but like that's all good that we're getting money back. We're holding the financial institutions accountable, but there's another piece of that people don't consider, and that's the simple fact that like the CFPB by sheer virtue of existing has helped prevent more fraud from happening. Like the level of fraud that's been cut down by the existence of the CFPB and the threat of like litigation, fines is massive. It's a nuclear deterrent for bad fiscal policy. Like I can tell you about how like if aggressive fees meant to attack customers with overdrafts, like how they shut that down and made sure the banks know like you're making enough profit. If you come for these people like you just did, like the CFPB is going to come for you. That's one thing. Another thing they did in response to the 2008 housing crisis was they did what's called stress tests on banks. Like they would have a bank submit their numbers and they would give them like scenarios and test them to see like, hey, like let's say the CD bond value like does a rapid inversion and we're looking at like a huge crash. Like, how much cash do you have on hand? And banks would have to keep like a certain amount of cash on hand. They would have to have policies in place to respond to aggressive and volatile economic circumstances that they as individual institutions can't directly control, but can prevent and protect their customers. Along with, like, again, FDIC insurance, which is something that the Trump administration also wants to get rid of, so that your dollar won't be backed by anything. And if the bank goes under, you're fucked. They're getting rid of all the protections. So yeah, like the CFPB was a nuclear weapon of finance. They were a deterrent that stopped banks, payday lenders, malefactors from acting out and hurting consumers more. And now they're going away. So like America is becoming cutthroat. It's becoming Mad Max. Like, we all just need to look out for ourselves now because there's no one else looking out for us. That's how you deteriorate a society. Like, that's how you take it back to the Old West. Like, yeah, there's a lawman 2 towns over, but he's different from the lawman over here. And also, my town doesn't have a lawman because fucking Donald Trump cut all the funding to all the lawmen and he doesn't want to pay for them anymore because he's got to build a new castle somewhere. Fucking idiots.
Financial system, good for you. But you've got to follow the basic rules of not cheating people, not lying to people, and not sucking.
She's a good person. She got fucked politically because of the Sacagawea crap, but like Pocahontas crap.
So he's announced
but
he's
like,
gonna do X.
She's a good person.
What a great idea. Move the bump out of the way before you start. You know, it's a little like a bank robber saying, "Oh, before I go into the lobby with my sacks that I'm ready to fill up, I'm just going to fire the cops."
Yeah.
And now I'll go in.
Oh, Brian actually interviewed her.
So again,
good for
Musk
him.
clamping down on the CFPB benefits him.
Jeb, I think it's just
How
me and
about
you
the
now.
Department of Labor, which oversees the National Labor Relations Board, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program, and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, all of which had over a dozen open investigations into Tesla and SpaceX regarding alleged unfair labor practices, safety violations, and discriminatory work practices. And in response, well, Trump fired the Department of Labor Inspector General, the chair of the NLRB, blocked their ability to rule on cases, gutted the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs via executive order, which prevented their investigation findings about Tesla from being made public.
Disgusting.
And for good measure, fired 2 of the 3 Democratic commissioners on the Equal Employment Opportunity.
They are, man.
Again,
It depresses
that
the hell out of me.
benefits Musk. The EPA had multiple lawsuits against Tesla over violations of the Clean Air Act and hazardous waste laws.
Again,
in the company's automotive
it's why I'm here. I
manufacturing
want to pull off these Groyper kids and
Trump
shake them a
fired
little
the
bit. Like,
Inspector General. The
like,
FEC
look at me.
was set to rule on a
Stop.
number of complaints filed during the 2024 election cycle, including complaints regarding Musk's America PAC, which helped Trump. So Trump illegally removed the FEC chair from her post. The Department of the Interior runs the Fish and Wildlife Service, which Musk has repeatedly clashed with. Trump fired the DOI.
They clash with him because he keeps dropping rockets on their fucking parks.
For allegedly engaging in hiring discrimination and investigations into whether Tesla had been candid in describing the features of its vehicles. Trump has since remade the DOJ in his image. The SEC sued Twitter in January, alleging that Musk misled shareholders about his Twitter stock purchases in 2022 and ordered Musk to pay the federal government as much as $150 million. So, Trump has since pushed out the SEC chair, leaving the agency now with a Republican majority. In each of these instances, in which there were 12 agency conflicts in total, the principal beneficiary isn't some nebulous concept of waste, fraud, and abuse. It is Elon Musk himself. He is getting rid of the cops who regulate his business interests and branding it as a win for Americans.
It's just
So,
that. Like,
I want to be clear.
Like, people are gullible, absolutely. But they need to, like, this is so surface level obvious. Like, it's just is what it is. But, like, you tell people about it, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. But add, like, 6 or 7 layers, maybe a Jewish person and some leftists, and suddenly the right-wing psychos on MAGA are just like, yes, this is true. They're making adrenochrome from the children and eating babies and fucking bears or something. Like, meanwhile, Donald Trump is like, I love Russia. Russia is amazing. And they're like, yes, Mr. President, go with God. God.
Here, I agree that we need to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. I agree that we should modernize our government systems, but I am damn well certain that we don't need to engage in the absolute worst form of crony capitalism to be able to get there. Elon Musk unilaterally deciding that Elon Musk's company should be awarded every contract is not eliminating abuse, it is exacerbating it. And beyond that, the blatant corruption throws into doubt everything else that he's doing. If he's willing to help himself so obviously in this instance, just a month into office, then how else is he helping himself beyond even what we already know at USAID and EPA and DOL and NLRB and EPA and FCC and DOI and SEC and DOJ? I know that these Republicans traffic on a daily basis in
we're gonna have to
projection,
rebuild
but
America.
pretending that you're eliminating abuse
That's
and
if we
behavior
can.
while trafficking neck deep in it is precisely what Americans voted against. And yet it is precisely what they got with this administration.
Before you go, just a quick note. If you'd like to see more of my...
Yeah, Brian, I liked and subscribed. Okay. All right, Jeb. Converting. They've all been red pilled by Aiden Ross. That like they're not forming social relationships anymore. A lot can be said when you're a teenager and you're just trying to figure things out and you're having awkward sex with your friends. Like nowadays, boys, these guys don't know how to talk to girls. They start watching Aiden Ross that doesn't know what a fascist is. He doesn't know what that fucking word means. Has weird relationships with women. Millennial parents are exhausted and don't have time to watch these Zoomer kids. Same thing with the later Gen Xers. They were disenfranchised, and they also see there's no future for us, so we're just fuck it, burn it all down, who cares? It's a loss of community, a loss of society. So yeah, I'm coming in here and just watching my stuff. I don't know what Kick's algorithm does or looks like, and I'm hoping that streaming regularly, I just put a profile picture, and I don't know why I didn't do that sooner. But having little things can make this a little more appealing to people and hopefully get them in here more. Again, Kick was the starting point, and then we'll see where it goes. And all the I've been cross-pollinating. I've matched up my Reddit with Blue Sky with everything's connected now. So hopefully my rampant presence everywhere will draw more people in. That being said, if you know anyone else interested, as always, invite them on in. And like I said, I added the politics tab to the Discord. Ooh, excuse me. Let's start with just the one. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I already put a lot in there already, because I want to have a little variety. Again, we got to be fluid with things. But yeah, right now it's about exposure, expansion, and hopefully redemption for a lot of lost souls riding the Trump train into oblivion. We'll see. So I'm gonna head out. I streamed a lot longer than I thought I would. That first half hour of me just ranting was not in the plan. So Jeb, I don't know. I'll probably be on the Discord for a little bit. I don't know if I am. I'm not gonna be too active. I'm gonna try to do more stuff this weekend. Post any ideas. I'll look at them when I can. And yeah, I will talk to you later, buddy. I'll see ya. And to all watching, you have a great night. If you had a good time, like and subscribe.